to save our home. We must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Welcome back to another beautiful day outside of West Kingsdown, England, where we're back racing Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. Today we are out at the famous Brands Hatch racetrack. I am Kevin, and joining me today up in the booth is Amir. Amir, some great racing going on already yesterday. It's been an awesome start to the season so far. I always say this, but I can't get enough of it. What are your hopes for today? We had a great Assetto Corsa race last time, 2 weeks ago. What are your predictions for today?
Ooh, it's going to be a tough one, isn't it, Kevin? Because it is a single line circuit, to be honest, because Brands Hatch doesn't really offer that much in overtaking. But if the drivers are actually quite gutsy, they could try to make it somewhere where other drivers will be least expecting it. So it's going to be a tight race, but the way that it's going to be a bit single file is a given, but I'm pretty sure the drivers will figure it out as the course of the race continues.
I couldn't agree more. So we'll have to see. Last time, just a quick reminder for everyone watching, we had Simone Seminara taking home that first place position, closely followed by Gael Valero putting up a battle the entire time. So we'll just have to wait to see if we can have that battle continue today. But you see our socials on the screen, so everyone make sure to go over and follow all of our socials, as well as check out our website at amxrace.com if you want to get more information on everything that is going on throughout the season. But before we get into today's qualifying, we have a few things to go over regarding, once again, Season 5. So, we are in Season 5. Man, where has the time gone? It's been absolutely great. I've loved being here. And like we said, AMX Sim Racing World Championship Season 5 started a couple weeks ago, May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th with this season's prize pool of $15,000 as well as next level racing gear. The race format goes as following for today's qualifying match as well as the race. So a 20-minute qualifier with a 40-minute race and one mandatory pit stop. So the rules a little bit different for Assetto Corsa Competizione than for our normal iRacing one. But these AMX 5 races are still getting heated up nonetheless. Driver cams are required for those that want to be racing out here today. Join the link via our AMX Discord or go over to our website at amxrace.com. The payouts are every balance is over $100 paid out each month. We race every Saturday and Sunday as well. So every weekend throughout the season, you can catch us here live and in person. So if you want to get up on the action, head over to amxrace.com at any time and feel free to join us. The schedule is as follows. Saturdays and Sundays, we do have AMX 5 races starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by another one at 7:20 p.m. And every other week, we have the introduction of AMX 20 as well this season. So every other week on Sundays, AMX 0, 5:50 p.m., followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So once again, make sure to head over to our website for the full schedule. For our Assetto Corsa Competizione races, the prize pool is as following. So first place gets $45, second place $30, Third place, 27. Fourth, all the way down to 15th place, with the fastest lap being set, getting an extra 4, coming to a total prize pool per race of $250. So right here, everything landed out on the line for that main 40-minute race. If you want to get in here and get yourself some money, feel free to join it. We always love having more drivers. The more the merrier, as they say. So far, this is our current AMX 5 top 12. In that number 1 spot, no surprise, he was number 1 last season as well. Gael Valero at 184, followed in second by Jackson SNJ. Third, Toby Soriano. Fourth, Corentin Guinez, who had a great day yesterday as well. Fifth place, Pedro Dean. Sixth, Bruno De Carmo. Seventh, Gaston Culavi. Eighth, Ralph Benitez. 9, Juan Blena. 10th, Martin Chico. 11th, Diego Viral de Leon. And in 12th, Dino Felipa. So a lot of the positions have changed already. Once again, we're only a few weeks into this season, so expect this leaderboard to be shifting around a lot the next few weeks. And for those of you wanting to get in on the action, head over. We have a current promotion going on. Save up to 40% with the AMX Season Pass. So we have one for AMX 5 iRacing, AMX 5 Assetto Corsa Competizione, and AMX 20. So once again, head on over to amxrace.com to get the full details. Sign up, and a Season Pass will get you discounted on your way to more earnings. So now I'm headed over to Amir. Amir, tell the folks at home what we have going on today with today's beautiful car and track combo.
Yep, thanks for the housekeeping there, Kevin. And certainly, I think a lot of people will be accustomed to this format by now because we get to see the track as the introduction of the title cards come through. But we'll get into a bit more detail what it is. We're here at Brands Hatch in Kent, and it's home to the British Grand Prix at one point, at least until 1986, when since then it has been at Silverstone. It was interchanging with Silverstone at this point. Opened in 1950, we're using the full Grand Prix layout, 3.916 kilometers, and it's in a clockwise direction. But as one of our fellow commentators, Lorenzo, pointed out last season, there's a bit of a quirk at Brands Hatch where, in real life, due to the houses being nearby, they have to actually close the circuit at 6 due to a curfew, so that it'll be noise abatement limits at this point. So, luckily, we don't have that kind of worry in sim racing. We can race all day, all night, whenever we want, and in Brands Hatch, virtually, it is no exception. So that's the track overview. Now we get to see what are the cars that we're racing with. Well, no surprise, it is the cream of the crop in the Assetto Corsa Competizione game. It is the GT3 class, varying from 500 to 600 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, 1.2 to 1.3 tons, and sequential gearboxes. So it's flappy pedal gearboxes all the way on the wheel, so you don't have to worry about taking your hands off the wheel and try to go into a clutch and shift it up through the H-pattern gears. These cars are the epitome of what makes the entire world of racing tick. It's a popular class, and no surprise here that we're racing in the GT3 class around a very great circuit at Brands Hatch, Kevin.
And that too, this being one of the most famous racetracks in the world. This is one of my personal favorites, so should be interesting what we see out here today as we head on into the qualifying and check up on our drivers. So last time that we were out, we had a little bit of rain that caused a little bit of shakeup on the grid. So we'll just have to see how today's conditions change things up. Once again, last race we had Simone Seminara coming in that top spot, but I expect plenty of other people to challenge him this season. So Assetto Corsa Competizione races going on every other week this season, and it is now part of the AMX 5 class. So a little bit higher stakes, just being in a little bit higher class, and we've had some excellent drivers. One thing again for this season, just a reminder, these drivers, they are able to compete in both races per day. So you will see some that are competing right now that may be competing later on today. So we'll just have to weigh in and catch up with those drivers. But right now, we're having on screen with the BMW. So this is hasn't been that popular of a car choice so far from AMX ACC races, but it should definitely be a good one today. So here we go. Again, everyone, the Just reading the chat. Let's go. I agree. Let's go, chat.
Yep, and looking at our screens right now, there was a kerfuffles in between. There was another BMW there. Special livery on this one though. This is the number 46 Team WRT car that's normally being driven by Valentino Rossi. Though it says 48 here on the outside, the car doesn't really changes. Nico Godoy, as to be expected, he maintains the same car choice he had from round 1 in Barcelona, so he really likes to stick to the Bavarian mark as we're coming around to Sheen Curve. This is towards the end of lap sector 3 times now, and well, Nico is not wearing any crazy hats this time. He is going full serious mode in ACC, Kevin.
Right there too, Nico Godoy, no stranger to AMX. We've seen him plenty of times as well, so a lot of people recognizing him. And right now, like I said, we have about 10 and a half minutes left in this qualifying session, so Nico Godoy will just have to wait and see if he's able to improve his lap time. Right now, just under 2 seconds off of that top spot. Once again, Simone Seminara setting the mark out here today at Brands Hatch, but Bruno De Carmo isn't too far behind him, so we'll see. We know Bruno De Carmo as well as Jackson Asensio, Gael Valero, a lot of these drivers out here today, they will have the pace. So once again, Simone Seminara, we know that he is quick out there today, riding the number 296 Ferrari 296 GT3 car. Is looking to keep his hopes up for the championship, but one of our other drivers that has come in from the iRacing scene, Gael Valero, was battling it out back and forth all last time. Gael Valero, unfortunately, it was all in the pits where it came down to it. Gael Valero leading last race, going into the pits, left enough time for Simone Seminara to get back that first place position and get the win. So we'll see that too, as well as Jackson Asenge, another person that we see all the time in iRacing, also making his way over to ACC. So this should definitely be a great battle for the podium.
Indeed, and you're right to point out what happened last time in Barcelona, where Valero was trying to go very clever with the overcut, but unfortunately it was not very successful in that regard because Seminara literally just pipped him towards the end there. But make no mistake, Valero will be fired up right now, and so is Seminara, who is really lighting out the charts here. 22.7, half a second clear of Bruno De Carmo, the closest challenger, with his fellow Brazilian and teammate in the Tony Kanaan stable, Jackson Resende, right behind. So a slight big gap between first and second, but no doubt I think this is the part of qualifying where everyone's getting a bit of a lull before the final push towards the end. Maybe the final 5 minutes will give us some faster lap times.
Ooh, as we see Seminara right there going off track, so this lap may not count right there, so he knows that he said, all right, well, I'm still sitting in that number 1. I got 8 minutes left in qualifying. That's still plenty of time to try and edge out that lead even more. So right now, we do have, like we said, a couple Ferraris, 4 BMWs, and Aston Martin. I'm surprised that Gael Valero is not out here again in the Ford GT3, the all-new Mustang GT3. That was seems to be his go-to pick for a lot of races. He has always been in a lot of the Ford GT vehicles throughout the seasons. But today, like we said, seeing the single Aston Martin out on the track. We'll see if that plays into it today. So once again, I know one thing that did come into play last time that may have changed some of these drivers' decisions is that balance between the vehicles. So that too, a lot of this comes down to obviously strategy, having to have that one mandatory pit stop, but as well these drivers getting a feel for the different vehicles, getting a feel for which ones do a little bit better on which tracks, as well as just driver preference. At times there's some drivers that I've seen, especially last season, it seemed that the McLaren was a very popular choice last season. So we'll just have to wait and see. Gael Valero currently sitting in the middle of the pack right now in 4th position, just over a second behind that top spot. So just under 7 minutes in this qualifying session. We'll see if these drivers can take that lead away from Simone Seminara.
Yeah, unfortunately, Luca Magnani, who was here last time at Barcelona, where he took the pole position away from Seminara, is unfortunately not here at the moment to tackle Seminara, though. But make no mistake, that qualifying is one thing, the race is another. So I will at least expect that the other drivers will give a better fight. And certainly the guy we're on board with, Guy Valero, who is known to have a dogged determination in between him. He loves anything that's tin tops. Definitely will be one to watch out for. But at the moment, just over 6 minutes left to go in qualifying. Let's see what he can do here in one final push.
And now we see another person that we do see a lot on the grid, Leo Mora, of course, out here in the number 1 Ferrari, that white and red Ferrari. So we have the Canadian going out on track right now. He's currently a little over 3 seconds down from Simone Seminara. But like I said, out here, a lot of these guys getting acclimated to the track, to today's conditions. Very great that, like we said, a beautiful day out here. It's not going to be a super cloudy day like it can be sometimes in England. So we see as well one of the other BMW drivers, Bruno DeCarmo. So looking very focused, looking to make up that half a second time up to Simone Seminara. But like we've seen last time around, and even in some of the other races of just right here, even just switching back and forth between iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione. Great drivers, obviously able to pretty much adapt to whatever sim that they're racing in, but it does take a little bit of adjustment getting used to the two.
Yeah, certainly, and it does put out the point, isn't it, of who is the iRacing specialist and who's the ACC specialist. But there are some drivers who can go literally in between two simulators and just be fast either way. And the likes of Seminara, I don't think we have seen him in the iRacing portion of AMX just yet, driving for Gladius competitions. He will definitely be one to watch out for throughout the entire season here in the ACC side of things. But Bruno DeCarmo leading the line for the iRacing contingent. So far, looking a little bit on edge here. This is really him pushing and trying to get every bit of lap time by just going through the corners that much harder and using all the road, trying to find the very precious time that he has here just to get up to the back of Seminara.
And here, as we're on board with Bruno DeCarmo, looking like he's setting down a great blazing last lap time right now. But it does look like there's been a few corners there where he was a little bit skittish, just had a little bit of oversteer going on that. So we'll see, will that be enough to improve on his lap time? And
nope.
Right now, it looks like it will not, unfortunately. So he still has a few minutes left to improve on that lap time. Right now, pole position is currently in the hands of Simone Seminara with a 122.715. So any of these drivers can get down under a 123, which honestly, to be fair to, that is already an amazing speed to be already under a 123 in these cars out here at Brands Hatch.
Yep. And you can see how hard they're pushing there. Jackson Resende, he had a 26 flat initially, and then after that 24.6 afterwards, so wasn't really the best of hot laps that he had. And this one he's already scuffed it, so he's gonna have to use this as a warm-up lap before really pushing it for the next one. So was the Carmo, who actually had a 23.6 after, or 23 flat actually, couldn't actually match his lap time. Meanwhile, yeah, it was a 23.6. Meanwhile, Valero moves up to second, 4/10 behind Seminara, so at least he's got a bit between his teeth.
And I'm seeing, as everyone can see on the bottom right-hand corner there too of the picture-in-picture, just looking, trying to see what Jackson is NJ may be looking around for. See him look to his sides. Not sure if he's just checking telemetry, checking if he heard something, what's going on there. But nonetheless, he's going to try and set down another fastest lap time, as well as here our current second place in qualifying, Kyle Valero in the number 159 Aston Martin out here. So once again, this is looking so far a lot similar to what happened in the last ACC race. Simone Seminara number 1, Gael Valero number 2. But again, it is a 40-minute race, and with some of these longer races, especially having that mandatory pit stop, anything can happen at any time. Definitely the lap 1. So last time when we were out in Barcelona, we had a bit of a hectic lap 1, as happens in a lot of races out here, as we see. Oh no, speaking of a little bit of a hectic lap, unfortunately Gael Valero going off into the kitty litter, so that lap will be done for him, and he only has maybe might have enough time to get one more in. We'll have to see. That'd be cutting it very close, as we're just under the 2-minute mark out here in qualifying. But now back to what I was saying last time when we were in Barcelona, that lap 1 with the rain, it caught a lot of people off guard. During qualifying, it was coming down pretty heavy, and then it cleared up and had a damp track. But today, we're looking a little bit more clear skies. We should see those drivers, possibly a little bit less hectic this time without the rain.
Yeah, and case in point, despite not having the rain here, it is still quite a treacherous track because the first thing you meet is grass, and after that is an endless amount of grass afterwards. You just can't stop the car, so really you have to keep it on a knife's edge so that you prevent yourself from going off forever into either the gravel trap or the wall. It's still a very tricky circuit to go to, so expect a lot of drivers probably making some desperate moves in that first lap to make up the time, then after that settle into the rhythm of the race. As we see quite a few drivers already in the pit lane. They're not going to do any more lap times, the likes of Valero, Resende, and Mora, but Dantas is still out on track. This is his one final lap, and nope, well, you can put that to bed now.
That's one thing from driving this track. Definitely, if you have a bit of an oversteery car, it can make this just a little bit tricky. I was out in Las Vegas this past week and got to talk to some of the guys setting up in the Aston Martin sim that they have at their Formula One races as well. Unfortunately, they didn't have the F1 car in Assetto Corsa going on, but they had the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which that one, I mean, it was one of those mods that was kind of put out there, but still good fun being able to hang out with a lot of these guys out there in the industry that, they get to be out here, see a lot of stuff in real life, as well as being involved in sim racing. So being able to drive this track in that kind of car, it is very fun, but definitely those hairpins can get to you out here. So as qualifying is wrapping up, we're moments away from seeing where everyone landed final on the grid. Simone Seminara looking like he was keeping that top spot.
Indeed, and for the likes of Seminara and Valero, there's no fear and loathing at above there. They got to worry about the race afterwards. See what I did a bit with the Las Vegas reference there. The two guys up in front definitely are gonna be the main protagonists, whereas the Carmo, Resende, and the rest of the guys will have to try and not lose their shadow, otherwise it will be a long race for them.
That too. And so right now, like we said, just with the qualifying results coming in, the official qualifying, we'll have to see. But just a reminder for everyone watching out there, so we do have, with iRacing races, that top 15 reverse grid out here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Wherever you place in qualifying is where you are going to start on the race. So definitely qualifying is very important, but once again, having that 40-minute race plus mandatory pit stops, changing it up just a bit to make sure that these guys, it doesn't only go to just, hey, you set the fastest time and you're gone. So definitely, as we've seen last time too, things can change on a dime. Things can get heated up halfway through as the results now come in.
Yeah, we can see there Seminara, all purple sectors, all the way to a 22.7. That's actually quite a competitive lap time, not gonna lie. With the Ferrari 296, which is not normally the pick of the bunch in terms of the cars nowadays, but because BOP changes track to track, it seems as though the Ferrari is suited here. About just a whisk over 4/10 in front of Valero, who was really pushing it in that final minutes of qualifying to get it up to second in front of the Carmo and Resende. So the two Brazilians and teammates for the Tony Kanaan team side by side in front of Godoy and Mora, with Dantas running up the field here, coming into the only race for AMX 5 in ACC. So looks like a very exciting career in prospect, and we have the first two who were 1-2 in Barcelona up in front, Kevin.
Yeah, and that too, as you can see, for some of those that may be confused and misses, we had this happen last weekend too, of if you're seeing the same name up on the leaderboards twice, that just means that, hey, they got in there with a different car and then they decided, you know what, I'm gonna actually change it up and let me get a different car that I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with. So if you see a couple names on some of those right there, that is what has happened. So right now, coming out, so we have 7 drivers out on the grid today. Like we said, Brands, Hatch, always really great time out here. So will there be lap 1 chaos? Who knows? I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to say there will or there will not be, because, every time we say how good the drivers are doing, of course, it's always that commentator's curse on something will happen. But also you can't deny what happens every lap 1 race when you're sim racing. Just you can tell the guys that are very comfortable with the track, some guys that are still not quite as comfortable, the ones that are still getting used to the car perhaps, But nonetheless, we see the drivers right now getting ready to grid up. So we're moments away from going green out here at Brands Hatch.
Yep, it's a short rolling start, so we're gonna get it to the flag almost immediately, and a couple of drivers have been left behind though. So Seminara, Valero, De Carmo, and Resende managed to keep it up, but oh, there we go. We finally get all the drivers in the line, all their ducks in a row. The 2 rows of 4 coming up to the line here, Kevin.
So right now it's going to be between Seminara and Gael Valero to get into turn 1 and most notably turn 2 once they head into Druids. That's really where we might see a lot of these good overtaking opportunities. So the green flag is off and we're going as Simone Seminara able to slot right in front as we see a battle right now door to door between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo, with Gael Valero able to hold it on to the outside as we see again once Simone Seminara playing it very easy, playing it very safe. So these drivers with the cold tires, we'll see how this goes. But right now they're playing nice with each other, getting into a little bit of a train right now going on. So far so good for our top 4 drivers right there.
Yeah, it looks like Valero was actually caught napping for a second at the start. He really didn't get the best of launches. Though having said that, he was on the outside. So if you're outside coming into Paddock Hill Bend, you're always going to be at a disadvantage. So luckily for him, he managed to get enough momentum coming out of Paddock Hill Bend into Druids to just stave off the attack of the Carmo and Resende. Now he can actually focus on to getting back at Seminara.
Right now with roughly half a second between the top 3 drivers. So they're still pretty close behind. Again, right here, you don't want to go too hard into this race. Again, 40-minute race going on out here, so it is a bit of a longer race compared to a lot of other sprints. So these guys, you're usually not going to win in the very first lap. So these guys know that, and they're doing their best to get that groove going, just start getting comfortable. But again, like we said, not too comfortable, because we know those drivers behind them in the middle of the pack are coming up right behind them to look to get onto that podium position. But right now, Simone Seminara doing an absolutely beautiful job right here. He's running his own race, but he knows he has a couple drivers very close behind him that he can't get too comfortable out here. As we see right there, that could have got a little bit close right there. So Gael Valero 2nd, Bruno De Carmo 3rd, and Jackson Senjay in 4th place. So those guys looking to close the door and put the pressure on Simone Seminara.
Yeah, I was really pointing out just now how Valero nearly could have lost it there coming up to Druids. The car was coming a little bit squirrely, but luckily he kept it together at the expense of just a couple of tenths. So he lost time to Seminara, but he didn't lose as much if he spun it around or fall into the clutches of the Carmo and Resende, because he doesn't want to battle between the both of them now. And he will be just keeping his eyes locked onto that, or he wouldn't want to do that too often either. As he said earlier, don't get too comfortable at this circuit, because it does bite you when you least expect it. You touch the wheel wrong on the grass or a bit of gravel, that's it. Your car might spin it around and you will lose a lot more time than you would.
Especially on this circuit too, with a lot of these corners being, nearly 90-degree turns, you can start getting a little bit hypnotized once you start losing focus just a little bit of exactly where you are. There's especially going into turns 5 and 6 right there, all the way 5 through 8, just doing a little bit of a square turning. So those are some good places that you really just, if you're not being careful, you can very easily go off into the sand trap. So these guys, though, so far they are professionals, as we can see now going down from the Granville Bend. So once again, Simone Seminara able to get a little bit of a lead ahead of the other drivers. So there's about 1.5 seconds between Seminara and Gael Valero. So right here, this is just showing the expertise that Seminara has from Assetto Corsa Competizione. So he knows from last time too of, all right, halfway through the race, last race is when Gael Valero really put the pedal to the metal and put on that battle for first place. But also with that last time, there was an incident right away off of lap number 1. So there wasn't anything crazy going on between the first few drivers this time around. So as long as they're just going to have to keep it clean and start pushing if they're going to want to get that championship place.
Indeed, and for Seminara, it's the best of starts, isn't it? He had pole position ready. That will be some points in his pocket. But then the start was pretty much what he wanted. Valero didn't have the best of getaways, and that in turn allowed him to get the whole shot and just hold the line coming out to Druids afterwards, that really put the impetus on him to just stretch the gap in front of Valero and the rest of the field. Now Valero will have Bruno De Camaro right behind, about 0.6 of a second. Interestingly, Jackson Resende actually has lost a bit of time. In fact, he was in the pit, so quite a few drivers pulling the trigger early so that they could just carry on for the race, carry on for the rest of the race without having to worry about a pit stop. For the other guys, they will have to plan it. Again, it goes back to that thing we said earlier, is either the halfway point or towards the end of the race that the guys will be planning a pit stop. And I think for the likes of Seminara, Valero, and De Carmo, they're probably going to do it beyond the halfway point.
And just a reminder, so everyone that is tuning in, you can see on the timing screen, those ones that have a little orange box with the number 1 in it, that means that they have yet to take their 1 mandatory pit stop. The 3 green ones are the drivers who have already taken their pit stop. So you can see Jackson Asenje, Leo Mora, Nico Godoy. The 3 drivers in the back of the pack have already taken that mandatory pit stop. So we'll have to see too, once these drivers start fighting it out, especially up here towards the front of the pack between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. Once those guys start battling, that's going to just leave more room for Simone Seminara to get away. So we'll have to see what happens between the podium drivers right now and see if that comes into play with when they're going to pit or not. It's been very characteristic for a lot of these drivers to pretty much wait until the last very moment that they can. So right before the last lap, to go into the pits and just do a quick splash and dash, maybe a liter of fuel, if even that, to get back on the road and keep battling it out for the final lap. So, I'm reading chat right now. Are the commentators sim racers themselves? I'd say we dabble in it. We're not professional like a lot of these guys out here, but you know, we love to hop in the sim and have fun as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I would say that I really go in depth into it, especially from where I'm from, because there's a burgeoning scene here, but not really completely professional. So, like to get into tournaments and time trials and all that. But yeah, in terms of all the games I play, I think I play most ACC, so I can feel really more connected to the cars here. iRacing's just getting into it right now, so probably get it. I'll probably just enter iRacing one day. But yeah, we're all sim racers at heart, and we do really love playing this as a game and as a way to just be pretend race car drivers and really drive them fast virtually. So right now, looking at Valero and De Carmo, interestingly that Valero is actually not using all of his triples here, incidentally, because he normally uses his triples already on iRacing, but he's not using it compared to Seminara, who's undoubtedly using a triple, because you can see lights on both sides, so he's using all of it, whereas Valero is not, so he's maintaining one single screen to look at what's happening behind with De Carmo closing in.
That too, chat. I see you out there. I see you guys trying to roast us with our low I rating, but in all seriousness, no, we're out here, we're having good fun. And that too as well. For myself, let's see, I've only been into the sim racing about the last few months as far as getting in on the action. If you want to see why I'm up here in the booth rather than out on the track, I suggest you go back and watch some of last season's racing, more specifically some of the AMX1 NASCAR races where, you know, in my humble opinion, I would say I probably have, you know, one of, if not the best crash in all of AMX. So, you know, my humble opinion. But for some reason, you know, those old NASCARs, I don't know what it is. When I get in them, sometimes they just go airborne, you know. But like I said, you get a great representation of why I'm back up here in the booth rather than out on track, at least until I get a little bit more experience on my belt. But nonetheless, I know these guys too on the social media. Once that post went put up onto Instagram, TikTok, everywhere else, that I was like, wait a minute, that car looks very familiar. Oh yeah, I went airborne at Talladega Speedway. So anyways, but back to today's race. So we can see on board right now between Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero. So things are heating up between these two as Bruno De Carmo looking to make his move. He's getting tired of being in third place right now, going door to door, but Gael Valero doing an excellent job defending him.
And that'll be easy on the circuit because he can just place the car anywhere. He'll have to force De Carmo to go the long way around to overtake. And that will definitely be infuriating for De Carmo because look at that. The BMW compared to the Aston at this point has the pace, but it's just that there's no clear-cut opportunities to overtake at this circuit. If he wants to try, he could probably try to do it coming up to Druids again, but you will definitely bet your bottom dollar that Valero will be placing the car on the inside, and it will force the Carmo to try and be a bit creative with the way he overtakes. Or he could play the strategy game by just hitting in early. He can pull the trigger, try to do the undercut, and force Valero to actually come in afterwards. So the in-lap for the Carmo, if he was to do that, has to be very good. Likewise, Valero, he'll be trying to actually, if you can see the Carmo coming to the pits afterwards, he'll try to actually bang in that in-lap and try to stay ahead once the pit stop cycle themselves out. So let's see if he does. Nope, the Carmo's staying behind, and we're only about 50 minutes into this race. Maybe he's waiting for the halfway point.
So like we said earlier, Simone Seminara able to get a very comfortable lead ahead. Now he's leading by nearly 6 seconds as Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo are battling it out for second place. So right here, that's great action going on for the second place position. Great for the viewers, but also great for Simone Seminara, who, when these guys are battling it out like we predicted earlier, is leaving him plenty of room. So right now, we may see a repeat of last ACC race going on out here. So Simone Seminara leading, followed by a great battle going on between second place Gael Valero and third place Bruno De Carmo, with Jackson Asenje. Oh no, let's see, Ivanto Dantas going down into fifth. So we do have a few other people. Jackson Asenje able to get that place back up into fourth place. He was down in fifth earlier, so he's making up a little bit of time. Let's see if his early pit stop will help him coming on later in the race. So we'll have to wait and see those battles going on in the middle of the pack as well, as Dantas dropping down another place.
Yeah, he's in the pits. Dantas is actually in the pits right now, so that's why he's dropping a few positions. You can see that small white P box there right beside his tracking number in terms of time behind the leader. He's still in the pits, incidentally, so he might be actually be here for an extended pit stop. Now that the leaders go by, he's well and truly a lap behind. So Seminara, Valero, and De Carmo have put a lap behind on the Brazilian, who had quite an eventful race yesterday, might I add, in the Lara F3s around Magny-Cours, where he lost his front wing twice. So in this particular case, looks like the pit stop thing is still a running theme for him, and he is well and truly stuck in there right now. But either way, Valero, with De Carmo hot on his heels, is really going to be hurting his race strategy, because if he continues fighting here, not only will he be losing time to Seminara up in front, De Carmo might just be able to play that strategy card of doing the undercut on him, and it will force him to just push into the pit lane anyway, and might just force him into a mistake.
Yeah, so it's always great to see a lot of these guys, like we said, coming over from iRacing into Assetto Corsa Competizione and just showing that, hey, this is why they are the pros. But speaking about last season, so unfortunately we haven't seen so far coming into here of Loy Renier, which was last season's ACC champion. Very great battle last season between him and Seminara. So Seminara barely missing out by a few points on the championship, but it's looking like this season, the way things are going so far, Seminara has an excellent shot of becoming this season's champ. So right now we can see in the back, it looks like Bruno De Carmo is going to head out into the pits, leaving Gael Valero some breathing room. So we'll see if Valero will be able to get any of that time made back up. And that too, we'll see. Now that he knows that De Carmo is going to the pits, we'll have to see when Valero will take his pit.
Yep, and he did exactly what I was talking about just now by just pulling the trigger, go for the undercut, and looks as though a very typical pit stop there. There we go. Just under 5 seconds, because it was just a splash and dash. And there we go. Now the ball is in De Carmo's court. He can actually just push after the pit stop and put Valero under pressure here on his in-lap whenever he pits.
So now we have 4 drivers out of the 7 that have taken their mandatory pit stop. Looks like Dantas, we'd seen him in the pits earlier. Not sure if that didn't register, so we'll have to see exactly what happened there that put Dantas all the way back to 7th place. But right now, we're back following your leader, Simone Seminara, who currently has nearly an 8-second lead over Gael Valero. So we'll see. Hopefully things don't get too dicey as he starts getting up onto some of the lap traffic as well. So keep in mind, some of these guys that maybe they had a couple incidences, a couple slip-ups. Now Simone Seminara, with the speed that he has and the pace that he has, will no doubtedly start coming up on lap traffic before the end of this race. So, or he may very well see if he's going to come up on lap traffic, if that will make him decide, all right, now it's time to take the pit stop or not. So once again, Gael Valero just under 8 seconds behind your leader, Simone Seminara.
Yep. And that 7.9 seconds is probably going to be a bit of a mountain to climb because pace-wise, it has been Seminara all the way. The fastest hands changed lap quite a few times. We saw Valero, we saw the Carmo, and even Resende at one point having a faster lap. But now, back in Seminara's hands here, looks as though at this point in the race, because the cars are definitely going to be a bit lighter on fuel, but the tires are going to be a bit worn out, I don't see it tumbling back anytime soon. Seminara now with an even bigger lead because look at that. One sector, he gained almost a few tenths here on Valero. It's already into the 8-second gap here. Really now, Valero has the bank on something happening to Seminara to have any chance of winning here today, as Evandro Dantas gets a 30-second stop and go penalty. I'm pretty sure that's for speeding in the pit lane.
Just like that. So with that penalty, unfortunately, that may possibly be the race for Dantas, but we'll see. As like we said, so last season, one of the big things that came up too is we've seen leads like this that, hey, it looked like it was first place, the driver had it secured, only to be taken out by a penalty. Like we said, very easy to get right there. Seen with Dantas, had a stop and go for 30 now that he has to serve. So that's the next thing is, yes, penalties can play a huge role, shift the tides out here. So Simone Seminara being characteristically, tongue tie right there, that he's a very, very clean driver out here. So it's be out of character for him to end up with a penalty like that. But once again, anything can happen. Right now, we're about 24 minutes left in this race. So Simone Seminara being dominant the entire time from qualifying now into the race, followed by Gael Valero in second and Bruno Di Carmo in third. So once again, we'll see if this time, if Gael Valero learned from the last ACC race that, hey, all right, I'm going to wait until the very last moment to pit. So we'll have to see if that is his strategy out here, or if he's going to try, like we said, go in just a little bit early. These drivers out here, the 40-minute race isn't quite enough for them to feel the need to change tires. The tires can last them all the way through, as well as the fuel is typically enough to get them through the entire race. So like we seen earlier with a lot of the drivers, just a quick splash and dash and get back out on the track. But Gael Valero now, with all of this fresh, clean air out in front of him, able to slowly reel it in. Like you mentioned earlier, Amir, it's an absolute mountain for him to climb. But right now, looks like Seminara is getting a little bit faster. Gael Valero a little bit slower as we see Valero off into the gravel. Ouch, right there as soon as he said just how good that he was doing. Just a little bit of a slide out off the track.
Yeah, and look at that, 9.2 seconds already the gap. So he was losing time hand over fist. We're coming up to that first sector timing beam after Surtees bends. We can see how much time he will have lost by then. 9.1 seconds, coming out now 12.4. He lost almost 3 seconds there from just that one mistake, and that will allow the Carmo, based on Delta, because he was behind by just a couple of tenths, to really have the opportunity to take the position away from Valero by virtue of Valero making that mistake once he makes his pit stop.
So as you can see right there, Simone Seminara passing lapped traffic out on the field. So right now it is very much looking like this is Simone Seminara's race to win. So as long as he keeps it clean, looks like we may see him taking the back-to-back wins out here for AMX Season 5 Assetto Corsa Competizione. So like we said, second place in last season's championship only by a few points. It came down to the very last race, but this season it is all Simone Seminara so far. So great to see it out here from him. And right now, with that little slip up too from Gael Valero earlier, it'll have to see what happens with Bruno Di Carmo. Since Bruno Di Carmo did already take his mandatory pit stop, Gael Valero still yet to take his pit stop. This should be a very interesting result to see what happens if we start getting a battle out for P2 coming up very soon.
Yeah. And for the likes of Gael Valero, I think he'll definitely need a martini after this, shaken and stirred, because it has been quite a tough race for him, shall we say, despite being in second place, and he was in the hunt on the podium at the podium at this point. It's been quite tough for him. No doubt he will concede second place now to the Carmo unless something happens to the Carmo as well. It was really quite right on the ragged edge, and he pushed it by at one point. So he'll have to hope that his pit stop will be fast enough to still maintain second place for him.
And just looking at Gael Valero out there today, I'm not really sure if that may be it. If since he's out there in the Aston Martin today, like we said, he's typically a Ford driver, so we see him in the Ford GT, Ford Mustang GT. So I don't know if we may have to tease him that, hey, since you didn't choose the Ford, you went somewhere else that Henry Ford himself looking down, not very happy about that. But now we see as Evandro Dantas going into the pit, he's going to have to serve that stop-and-go 30-second penalty from earlier.
Yep, and again, hopefully, because he's serving the penalty, he doesn't end up serving a secondly because he overran the pit lane. As we now hear the radio engineer in ACC saying they passed the halfway point. Well, we got a Korean on board here right now. Han Justin, hello. 안녕하세요. I say the correct saying hello here or good evening in Korean in my very scuffed way of saying it. So hopefully you're enjoying the race and hopefully we can see you race out here as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and so for once again, anyone out there watching that you want to come out here, get in on the action, come test your skills with these drivers, feel free to head over to amxrace.com. We have the full season schedule going on, as well as current promotion, as we see right now, Simone Seminara lapping, which looks to be Leo Mora in the other Ferrari. But like I was saying, those of you that want to get in on the action, amxrace.com, we have a current promotion going on right now for season pass. Get 40% off of your season pass price. So get in on the action. We still have quite a few weeks left out here, both in ACC and iRacing, as well as our new class this season of AMX 20. So we'd love to have you out there watching, but we also would love it just as much to see you out here as well, being able to commentate on some of you guys. So Seminara right now. Oh no, I'm just looking now. Looks like Jackson is NJ just got a drive-through penalty as well. So a couple guys out here getting penalties today. Like we mentioned when we were first in qualifying, this track can be a bit tricky. So as popular as it is, and as many races as this track is seen in both iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione, it can still be tricky. No matter if you've run this 5 times or 50 times, this track can still eat you up. As we see there, Jackson Senja getting a little bit loose. So like we said, these guys are amazing drivers, but just shows how daunting this course can be at times.
And look at that, Resende also has a drive-through, and I think this one is more towards that he extended track limits at certain places 3 times too many, and the in-game stewards have given him that drive-through. So on before Resende, any hopes of trying to catch fellow countryman and teammate De Carmo is now going to be thrown out of the window here with that. So, well, that is a shame for him, and for Dantas, unfortunately, it's 30 from really pear-shaped to completely into a husk.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate right there. So we've seen, Evandro Dantas out here in some other races as well. So like we said, it's just one of those things that sometimes it's not your day, it's not your race. You make a couple errors, and, once that gets in your head or once you start falling back, it's really hard to come back from that as well. But like we said, so Evandro Dantas right now still having that penalty showing, as well as now Jackson Asenje going in to serve his penalty. So he has already taken his mandatory pit stop, so he will not have to pit and add any fuel. He'll just have to drive through, clear that and get back out on the race. So where we've seen that he may have been catching up to Bruno De Carmo earlier on, we'll have to see where this puts him coming out of this as well. So Leo Mora in 5th place, we've seen was about 30 seconds back behind. So we'll see, probably not quite enough time for him to catch up to Jackson as NJ. But like we said, right now with just over 16 minutes left in this race, anything can still happen. All it takes is one mistake, end up into a wall, end up into the pits, and that's it. So we'll continue to see as 16-minute mark is now coming up. Your leader, Simone Seminara, followed by Gael Valero in 2nd, and 3rd place, Bruno De Carmo.
Yeah, and again, the gap between Seminara and Valero has increased inches by inches, bit by bit, to well over 13.2 seconds as they cross the line that time around. we'll wait until he comes up to the 30s timing beam for sector number 1 to find out how much time he has lost in the intervening corners here. But it looks as though pace-wise, there we go, 13.5 seconds, another 3/10. Pace-wise, the Valero's really has not had the best of days, plus that off at turn number 1 in Paddock Hill Bend really would have scuffed up those tires badly. He'll have to conserve these towards the end, otherwise if he goes off any further or hits a curb wrong, he might just incur a puncture, and that will really be a bad day for him.
Right now, Gael Valero, we can see as the tires starting to wear, we've seen him getting a little bit oversteery earlier on. So some of these corners, all it takes is just a bit of a touch of that grass, and that will get your car very, very loose around here. So as much as these guys are trying to push it, trying to make up on the lap time, just pushing it a little bit too hard can have pretty big consequences around this track. But like I mentioned, Simone Seminara is just showing why he is absolutely dominating out here still, ever so slightly inching the lead every single lap that goes by. So right now, about 14 and a half minutes left, as we can see there, Dantas back in the pits. So unfortunately, that has been one thing that we've seen this race quite a bit, Dantas having to stay in the pits. So one, I will absolutely commend him for still staying in this race. We have seen sometimes, you know, when the driver will have an incident or have a penalty and it drops them to the back of the pack, that they just stay in the pits the rest of the race. So I'm glad that Dantas has been getting back out here. But, you know, you can see he's just a little bit frustrated on his face, a little bit upset that it did not go the way that he wanted out here. But hey, like we said, there is always the next race coming up later on today, and there's always next week. We are still very early on in this championship. So, you know, everyone has bad races every now and then, but that is how it goes. So we hope that Vandro Dantas, best of luck coming up for the next races. We hope to see you there as well. But right now, we're still seeing the man of the hour, Simone Seminara, who has a 14.1 second lead over Gael Valero now. And as we can see on camera, there was Gael Valero looking like he was catching back up to Leo Moro. So Gael Valero also catching up to lap traffic. And there we see Dantas right in front of Seminara as well. So these drivers, like I said, glad to see him back out on the track, even if it's just to finish the race. I always commend drivers for finishing a race.
Yeah, you know, save face and just at least bring it home so you can get some points on the board here, especially for Dantas, who has had quite a nightmare weekend, if we're honest, because after what happened to him in the AMX 5 race at Manico in the Formula 3, the Lara Formula 3 cars, he'll just be looking forward to the final race of the entire weekend to hopefully close it out on a high, as meanwhile Seminara manages to get past Dantas here right now. Let's see then, where is he going to pit, because there's about 12 and a half minutes left to go. I think he will definitely wait until the very last moment, along with Valero, to make their mandatory pit stops and just sail home all the way to the end. But for Seminara, it'll be an easy thing. For Valero, pressure's on, because now he only has the Carmo about half a minute behind, less than half a minute, and that's catchable because that's within the pit stop window.
So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Like we seen last week, not last week, 2 weeks ago when we were here out with ACC, that was the deciding factor for Gael Valero, dropping down one place, going through that pit stop. So we'll have to see, will he be able to hold onto his position this time around going into that pit stop, or will Bruno De Carmo be able to overtake and get back into that second place position? So we're going to have to wait and see, as we're about 3/4 of the way through this race. So we have just under 12 minutes going on. Simone Seminara looking very comfortable up in that top spot. So once again, from the very beginning, since qualifying, he has been in the lead, able to break off away from Gael Valero very early on, as Valero and De Carmo were battling it out, just giving ample time for Seminara to really lead away. So I would love it to really see also, you know, if Simone Seminara, like we said, he is one of these ACC specialists. He's been proving it time and time again. Every time he races, he's been at the top of the pack. He's been towards the front. So I would really be curious to see if Seminara gets in on any of the AMX 5 iRacing this season going on, or possibly in the future at all. Be very interesting to throw an ACC guy out into iRacing as well.
Yep, and to go back to that earlier point, I think Just Keith made that, well, say that we have a low I rating. Jokes on you, Just. I don't have an I rating, so you can try to nail Kevin for that one.
It's okay. It's net code. It's always net code, guys. That's why I have such a low I rating.
Oh, yeah,
net code. Just
Yep.
no, but in all seriousness, no, it's been great just to be part of the community, coming into a lot of this stuff. You know, everyone out here is a motorsports fan. Everyone out here loves seeing races, loves participating in it. You know, my thing was always growing up as well, playing all of the Need for Speed games all the way, I think, since I was probably about 4 years old. They had, I think I had Need for Speed 2 was the very first game they played on PC. So I don't know why. Yeah, definitely. Netcode issue, not skill, guys. I'm seeing chat now. Yeah, I don't really know why my parents were letting me play at 4 years old on the computer doing Need for Speed. At least they thought, hey, well, you know, it's better than some of the other things I could have been doing. You know, I was always getting hurt as a kid too. So I don't know, it's that thing of parents a lot of times would say, oh, you need to play outside more. But I guess when you end up in the hospital too much, they maybe say, oh, okay, it's okay to play inside a little bit. But so we can see
Yes,
as Seminar right now, again, still making his way through lap traffic, the traffic letting him by just a little bit. So that's always great to see out here. Sportsmanship as well. As I see you guys saying Underground 2 was the best. Honestly, that is probably my
Agreed.
favorite Need for Speed game of all time. Underground 2,
Yeah.
I know everyone says, a lot of people say the original Need for Speed Most Wanted, but if I could track the amount of hours that I had put into Need for Speed Underground 2, I already know how many thousands of hours. It would be ridiculous. I'm glad that back in the day we couldn't keep track of how long we were in games like you can now on Steam.
Yep, indeed, and I think I sunk a lot of my childhood into that game as well, and Burnout 3, which is still one of the most G'd up games you can play, especially the Rampage mode. It was so awesome back then. Speaking of the action getting hot, I think Saminara is actually probably feeling a little bit hot under the cosh here, not because of pressure, but because he is driving all by himself right now up in front. He's just trying to get rid of the monotony of being all by himself and just keep himself at least awake for the next 8 minutes to claim what has been a really superlative win.
So that too, yeah, you can see the focus, just Seminaro having to get focused back a little bit again. So a little bit more than 8 minutes, so it's looking like it's hot in that room where Seminaro's at. You can see him keep going and waving himself down. So I know, hey, it's summertime right now. Things are heating up. We had a big heat wave in a lot of different parts of the world. So depending on where you are, you know how that heat wave is feeling right now. But so once again, Seminaro making sure not to zone out as well, not to make any mistakes, able to hold on to that first place position. So that first place position is his pretty much as long as he keeps it on the track, doesn't get any penalties, and has a clean pit stop. So Gael Valero right now, as we see him in the Aston Martin out here as well, still has not taken his pit stop either as well. So Gael Valero still a little bit of a gap between first and second place. So 7 minutes left in the race. Let's see what happens once he gets to his pit stop. Like we said last time, he waited till about a couple laps before the finish to take his pit stop. So we'll see if that's going to help or hurt him, if he's going to wait until the last lap.
Yeah, let's see if he does that then. But again, in terms of, if we have an AWS predictor like what we do have in F1, it will no doubt show that the Carmo is well and truly ahead in terms of delta, because Valero at this point in the race, after the halfway point, has not had the best of luck in terms of pace, and really has been losing time hand over fist to Seminara. So at this point in time, Valero might just have to pit as soon as he could to save a bit of time out on track to not lose more, and in the hopes that the Carmo has had off final part of this race to get him at least a second place net.
And just a reminder for everyone out there as well, so points are awarded to all the top 15 drivers. So since we only have about 7 drivers out on the grid right now, they will all be walking out of here with points, with money in their account going out. So once again, if you want to get involved in these races and you say, you know what, even if you just want to get in here for fun, as I've done as well, gotten into a couple of ACC races that I was like, you know what, this actually looks very fun. I am very new to ACC, but nonetheless, able to just get in there and even just lie down a few laps and finish. I know when I did it, I tried my first ACC race, which is, I don't know if the best thing to admit right now, but it was my first ever ACC race. I put in a few laps of practice and went around Mount Panorama, and I will say that too, Mount Panorama will eat you up and spit you out if you are not ready for it. So again, if you guys want to see my epic crashes, make sure to go back, rewatch last season's races as well. But this season, for season 5, things are a little bit different. The format's a little different. Some things the same, some things different. But right now, coming onto the 5-minute mark, so only a few laps left for these drivers out here. It is going to get tight behind Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. I feel like that is going to be the battle to look out for now towards the end of the race. So we'll have to see, as long as Gael Valero able to not let the pressure get to him. Like we said, once you are driving alone for quite a while, that can start to mess with you mentally just a little bit. So moments away from seeing what may be potentially a good battle, as Gael Valero 18 seconds behind first place right now. Both of the guys up in first and second still need to take their pit stops.
Yep. Our attention will be focusing on Valero, of course, whether or not that pit stop that he will make will maintain second place for him, or will De Carmo actually get him at the end. And my money's on the fact that De Carmo is having a real good second half of this race, and he's only within striking distance of overtaking him. That will be the fight towards the end of the race, but De Carmo well and truly has it in between his teeth right now.
So we're seeing right there, looked like Bruno De Carmo a little bit over 20 seconds, so he was roughly 23 seconds behind Gael Valero. So like we said, depending on how quick Valero can get in and out of the pit stop, of course you want to get in without having any penalties as well. We've seen Dantas earlier looking like he was speeding through the pits, possibly. He had that stop and go, and but those are the things that will do it for you. Those are things that can make or break a race. So right now, 3.5 minutes left to go. We'll have to see. It's getting pretty close. These drivers only have roughly a couple laps, maybe about 2 or 3 laps left in the tank before we see who your winner is, and it is looking like so far that will be Simone Seminara.
Indeed, and this is the beginning of summer right now. You can see how Seminara was feeling a bit hot, as he said, the heat wave. Also, Han Justin was mentioning that there was a music festival that went on in Korea just over the weekend, so that's one way to kick off the summer festivities. And for Seminara, what a way to do so by winning today's race here with a handy margin up in front, about 20 seconds now ahead of Valero. So by the time he comes in, he's well and truly safe. We're on board with Bruno De Carmo right now. He will definitely be having Valero's position in his sights once the Frenchman comes into the pits here. So it's an interesting battle of who will be the one to come out on top, the one who pitted first or the one who's doing the overcut. And again, it looks more than likely right now that the driver who pitted first, in this case De Carmo, will be ahead of Valero, who has been struggling for pace pretty much throughout this entire race.
So this also goes to show with which drivers, once they have that space ahead of them, really get in the zone. So a lot of this too is really that mental part of the game. So if you're making a few mistakes here and there and you can see your deltas going down, it really kind of starts to get with you. So, you got to be able to recover and get back in the zone, get back out on the track. So we do see Gael Valero now going into the pits. So this is going to be a countdown between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. Will Gael Valero be able to get his pit stop and go, make it out ahead? We will have to wait and see, as Simone Seminara looks like he's going to wait until the very last lap to pit. So Gael Valero able to stop, take off, and Bruno De Carmo did pass him while he was in the pits. So De Carmo able to get back in that second place position. So now it is a race for Gael Valero to catch back up to get into second.
Yep, but again, he may have left that pit stop a little bit too late. He should have pitted earlier when he had the chance to just cover off De Carmo. Now that De Carmo actually had the pace throughout his entire second phase of the race, it's pretty much game over by now, because only a lap to go after this. De Carmo with a perfectly executed pit stop where he pulled the trigger to go for the undercut, and it worked out brilliantly for him.
So right there now we see as Seminara going into the pits. So under 1 minute left in this race, we have Seminara. This may very well be the last lap for these drivers. Seminara doing his mandatory pit stop with plenty of time ahead of the other drivers. So, like we said earlier, Seminara being absolutely dominant throughout this entire race. Got pole position in qualifying by about half a second, and now he's showing why he is so far leading this ACC championship. So Seminara back out of the pits and back on as we get out of here with just moments left to crown today's winner. So congratulations. Well, I shouldn't say anything just yet. Like we said, it's still the final lap going on. So far though, like we said, Seminara, very characteristic of him, be laying down some of the fastest lap times as well as leading this race. So we had a great battle going on earlier as well between Bruno Di Carmo and Gael Valero. Gael Valero making a couple mistakes here and there on the race as the clock runs out. We have first, second, third, Simone Seminaro, Bruno Di Carmo, Gael Valero. So now we're waiting for Seminaro to cross that finish line and claim his back-to-back wins out here. So he just needs to keep it clean. And you know what, Amir, I'm going to say it right now. I have a really good feeling that Seminara may walk away a champion this season.
Oh, you can bet your bottom dollar on that one with the way that he's been in red hot form in the two races that we had so far. I would agree with you on that one. He really is shoe-in for the title in AMX 5 ACC.
So right now, back onto the home stretch, it'll be Simone Seminara with the win. Your race number 2 of Assetto Corsa Competizione winner, Simone Seminara, in the very fitting number 1. Last season, missed the championship by a few points, but this season he said, nope, I'm coming back stronger than ever. I'm going to make sure I'm sitting atop the podium, and so far, he has proved us all that he is out here. He is ready to win. He's ready to be a champion, as well as some of these other guys coming over from iRacing, giving a little bit of a challenge. Checkered flag waves for Bruno Di Carmo and Gael Valero as well. So, amazing race. We had a little bit of a gap going on between there, but it came down again. Bruno Di Carmo, Gael Valero, that pit stop. We're going to have to see again if this changes Gael Valero's pit stop strategy going into future races. This is 2 races in a row for ACC that he has lost position during that pit stop. But big congratulations once again to our winner, Simone Seminara.
Yep, perfect from start to finish. Qualifying on pole, led the whole way. He didn't even lose the lead for even a single lap, so he led all the laps and ultimately winning the race. So not only he get, well, we normally have a triple crown in AMX where it's on iRacing, but this one is the Grand Slam and the Gentleman Set. He even had the fastest lap in there, so no doubt a very perfect day for Simone Seminara.
So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we can get Simone out here in the interview room coming up very shortly. But this is where our standings look like for the race. So it looks like we have in first place, of course, Simone Seminara leading the entire time, followed by Bruno Di Carmo in second. Third place, Gael Valero. And we have Jackson Asenje fourth, Leo Mora fifth, Nico Godoy in sixth, and in seventh place, Ivandro Dantas. So our BenQ session winner, 2 weeks in a row, 2 races in a row, I should say, Simone Seminara.
Yep. And the Gladius Competitions driver is looking very dead chuffed there. Ear to ear smile. It's pretty much the perfect race for him. He really was untouched throughout the entire race.
All right, so like we said, we're going to hear moments away, see what Simone Seminara has to say about today's win. Once again, back-to-back wins for Simone Seminara in Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's been a great day out here. We have a few weeks left, well, more than a few weeks left for these ACC races. So once again, everyone, if you want to come out here, you think you got what it takes, feel free to head over to amxrace.com. We'd love to see you out on track. But now we're going to head off into the interview room with Simone Seminara.
And of course, here we are. We have Simone Seminara in the interview room. Ciao, Simone. Congratulations for the win. And really, it was a dominant performance. Take us through how you did it, because it looked so easy, but at one point, it looked like you were going to be feeling a bit hard, because it was looking like very tiring work out there.
Hello everyone, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the race was quite monotonous, I'd say, but yeah, it wasn't that easy with the tire wear, but I mean, I managed to build a quite big gap at the start, so I just manage my pace and the tire life.
Indeed. And speaking of the tire wear, because it looked as though the tire wear wasn't that bad for you, but for the other drivers, it was actually going off. How did you conserve the tire life while still maintaining the pace up in front? Because it was definitely looking like you were pretty much putting it on the edge for most of the race.
The key factor is definitely the first laps of the tire life, because if you push too much when the tire is still cold, you will destroy it. Same thing happens if you go too much on the curbs or on the grass, which is very easy here on Prince Edge. But yeah, if you do the first laps clean and then you don't go off track, you are fine for a 40-minute race.
Indeed. And of course, looking at your shirt right now, I can guess that's Gladius Competitions, aka formerly Balas. But yeah, you probably want to give them a shout out to wrap up the whole race today.
Yeah, it's always great to have the support of the team. We practice always together, and I mean, when you see a great result from anybody, there is always a teamwork behind, which is very important.
Indeed, especially
to Gladius competition.
Indeed, grazie to them for the continuous support, and of course, hope to see you in future races, Simone. Congratulations again, and arrivederci.
Thank you. Goodbye.
So there you heard it, folks. A little bit of a tip from the man himself as well. So definitely seeing a little bit of the strategy from our back-to-back winner. You know, kind of giving a little bit of tip to some of those people out there. Be careful on those cold tires and that tire wear coming into play today. But once again, that is our Assetto Corsa Competizione AMX 5 race. Once again, make sure to follow all our socials, but don't go anywhere. We have another AMX 5 race coming up here very shortly in a few minutes, where we're going to be heading over with some of the most popular cars. That would be the F4 cars in iRacing. So I expect that to be some great racing, especially coming off of yesterday with some of the other Formula style cars. It's always great to see open wheel racing, especially out here with these drivers. AMX 5, AMX Sim Racing World Championship coming back at you. We will be back shortly. Don't go anywhere.
to save our home. We must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Another beautiful day out here at Zandvoort as we overlook the wonderful Circuit Zandvoort out in the Netherlands. Welcome back to AMX Season 5 Racing, where we're out in the F4 cars today, home of the Dutch Grand Prix out here at Zandvoort. I am Kevin. Alongside with me is Amir as well. And Amir, it's been a great day of racing so far. Yesterday as well, so just overall amazing weekend of racing.
Indeed, and what a way to wrap it up for the weekend here with a circuit that, well, normally we were associated with Formula 3 cars, the same cars we saw in Matnico yesterday, but the FIA F4 cars are quickly becoming one of the most popular cars in the iRacing service, and I think because they're much smaller compared to the FIA F3 cars, we will see much closer wheel-to-wheel action, and certainly it will be a bang for your buck if you join for this one.
So I look forward to today's car and track combination, as well as everyone tuning in. Make sure to follow all of our social media. You can see it right now on the screen, as well as our website at amxrace.com. But before we get into today's qualifying, we have a few things to go over about this season. So like I said earlier, we are in AMX Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. We started it back a few weeks ago on May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th with this season's prize pool of $15,000 plus next level racing gear. So today's race goes as follows. We will have our 20-minute qualifier, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by another top 15 reverse grid, and then finally that second heat of 20 minutes. So, like we said, these reverse grids always make it a great combination for racing out here. Driver cams are required, so all of those participating, you got to show us your beautiful faces. So make sure to join the link via our AMX Discord or head over to the website for more information. Balances are paid out after every $100 each month. So once you do hit that $100 mark, expect to see some of that money headed your way. We are here every Saturday and Sunday. So like I said, more information, feel free to head over anytime to amxrace.com. Our schedule is, again, this season every Saturday and Sunday with AMX 5 races starting at 5:50, followed by another race following at 7:20 p.m. And every other week, we're switching it up with AMX 0 on Sundays starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by an AMX 20, all new for this season, at 7 o'clock p.m. So make sure to check the full schedule at our website. That we can see which weekend it is, which one we're going to be on the different classes as well. The prize pool going on for these AMX 5 iRacing is as follows. Qualified, first place you get $15, followed by second $10, third $9, down all the way into 15th place. Then once we get into heats number 1 and 2, it'll be similar points and payouts all the way down to 15th place, with the fastest lap being set getting an extra couple of dollars, with a total prize pool of $250. And just a reminder for those of you wanting to join in here for some of these races, AMX 5, you must have a minimum I rating of 2,000. So you got a 2,000 I rating and you want to come in here and win yourself some prizes, feel free to join. We love seeing new faces. We love stacking out these grids. But currently, this is your AMX current promotion that we have. So save 40% by getting a season pass, AMX season pass for AMX 5 iRacing, as well as AMX 5 Assetto Corsa Competizione and the all-new AMX 20. Once again, amxrace.com for all of the details on how to purchase those season passes. So now we're going to head it over to Amir to give a little bit more on depth of what we got going on in today's race number 2.
Yep, certainly, Kevin. As we saw in the prelude just now with the car and track names, we're here at Circuit Zandvoort, and it is the updated Circuit Zandvoort might we add, because we have the banking towards the end here. Located in Zandvoort, the Netherlands, it's actually quite a nice seaside town that faces the Baltic Sea on one side, with the sand dunes covering on the other. And this is why it's called Zandvoort, because in Dutch it literally means sand fort. So you can clearly see where the name gets its inspiration from in the beautiful country of the Netherlands. Opened first in 1948, hosted its first Formula 1 Grand Prix in the 60s, and will be using the full layout of 4.2 kilometers. And the that's the track. While the car we'll be using in for this particular race, well, it's none other than the now highly popular FIA Formula 4 cars from iRacing. Initially, it was just called the iRacing Dallara IR04, but because of the FIA affiliation, now it's just officially called the FIA F4 car. 160 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, a very light 570 kilos, which is basically the F1 weight characteristics of these cars, of all Formula 1 cars in the 2000s, and a sequential gearbox, so the drivers once again don't have to take their hands off the wheel when they're going up through the gears. This is definitely a really similar car to the FIA Formula 3. It's all about preserving momentum, but at the same time, it is so chuckable. It's really one of the best cars to drive on the service. So that's the current track combo. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
We had sorry about that. We had yesterday the F3 cars. So all weekend long, some of these Formula cars out here. Yesterday F3 and today the F4 cars. So things got a little bit heated up yesterday. We'll see if that has anything to play into coming to today. Some of these drivers wanting to redeem themselves. Some of these drivers wanting to get a little bit better races today. So again, expect it to be very action-packed in these smaller F4 cars, especially on this track out here today. I expect some wheel-to-wheel, a bit of rubbing, a bit of contact, is almost always unavoidable when these guys out here racing. But hopefully we can keep it as clean as possible as we go into our qualifying right now. So we have a few familiar faces out there today, as well as Gael Valero, who was competing in the Assetto Corsa Competizione race earlier today. But right now, we can see looking like Aaron Vasquez right now. So Aaron Vasquez, one of our champions from last season. You see him in a lot of races right now too as well. The Drago team racer. So this kid has a bright future ahead of him. We've seen last season, if you watched him, he was always atop of the leaderboards, one of the fastest drivers in iRacing. So especially when we see some of the special events going on as well. There's a lot of drivers out here today. Great competition going on. But right now, looking like in that first place position, we do have Pedro Dean. So another young driver right now coming up. So tons of great drivers out on the field today. And you can see right now next to the timing screen as well, a lot of these guys have been here, put in the work for quite some time. They have amazing iRating way up there, as well as a few other people that, are good, that right now are sitting kind of towards the middle of the pack. But as we see, Aaron Vasquez able to just set that fastest lap time. So taking it back from Pedro Dean as we are about 8 minutes into this qualifying session.
Yep, indeed. And we are focusing on one of the homeboys here today. This is Sam Koitert, driving in front of his virtual home fans, and indeed the home fans will be watching here right now for Team Redline. Only just a couple of hundreds behind, 700s in fact, behind Aaron Vasquez, so he just improved up to second. This is no doubt the time for him to push on here to see if we could get the fastest time in qualifying, and certainly home track advantage does play a role in that.
And so we can see out here too. So a lot of these guys from the top sim racing teams, like you mentioned now, of Kaiter out here from Team Redline. We have Aaron Vasquez, Team Drago. We have these guys out here from Apex Racing and Kanan Esports. So a lot of the top sim teams out here being represented in AMX Season 5. So we had a lot of battles going on between the different teams all of last season as well as now. Getting a beautiful side view. I love Aaron Vasquez's livery right now. He's not running the Drago livery today, but he's running, looks like a Pepe on the side of it. So this guy, he's always, if it's not his official team livery, he's out here, having the meme livery. So you love to see the drivers out here just having fun with it.
Indeed, really showing the creativity here, especially the fact that iRacing has some of the best livery editors out there where you can literally create a livery from scratch in just a blink of an eye. So really love how the templates work out here. And for some drivers who just want to have a bit of fun, well, Vasquez has done so in spades. But despite the meme livery on the side, the pace he's showing is not a meme at all. This is really fast from Vasquez, and he's still going at it even more so.
We've seen last season when we were back here at Zandvoort, Aaron Vasquez was doing an amazing job when we were in some of the GT3 cars. So he is no stranger to this track as well, and he is showing it out here today in the F4 cars. But like we said, right now, just from the top 3 drivers, we have a very tight gap. So between first and second place, there's roughly 0.06 of a second going on right now. So very tight gaps between that. And Pedro Dean right now also improving on his time, about 700 of a second. Well, behind Sam Kuitert as well. So a lot of these drivers, the top drivers, very, very close so far. So we should see just how close this is going to get going into heat number 1.
Yep, as looking through the comments from the previous race, Nicolas Godoy was actually in our comment section. He will love to see some data from Simon Semnara. Indeed, it would definitely be good pointers of how he got away very fast there. And Leo Mora as well, who was in that race just now, finishing in the top 6. So let's see if he can make it. So far, no, but looking forward to see all of them racing in future races after this, because that was just basically an appetizer for what's to come. And in these Formula 4 cars, definitely will be served up with some good races.
And looking through the grid as well, seeing a lot of familiar faces, such as the likes of Jackson SNJ. We have Vinny Dean out there as well, Tim Stade, like you mentioned, Evandro Dantas, Gaston Kulavi. So plenty of familiar faces out here from previous seasons as well. As we can see here, Vinicius Dean, who it looks like is yet to set down a lap time, but there's plenty of time. Like we said, we're just over halfway through the qualifying. So just looking for a little bit of clean air to set down a good, comfortable lap time. And that too, for those just joining us, that 2 Deans on here, they are twin brothers as well. So we do have Pedro Dean and Vinny Dean. We love seeing them battle it out as well. So just because they're brothers, don't, take it away from them that both of them aren't going to battle it out. As we see, how we see Vinny Dean getting a little bit squirrely right there on that last corner. So we'll have to see what that does to lap time. And like we said, guys, plenty of time. They're running just over 1.5 minutes out here at Zandvoort today in these wonderful F4 cars.
Yeah, and speaking of the Dean brothers, we saw yesterday how Pedro Dean was a bit of a loose cannon, shall we say, and I'm putting it quite lightly because he was involved in plenty of high-profile incidents yesterday that caused a few damages to other cars, other drivers, including himself as well. He kept it off on a high though, because he did finish second in that last heat and in the final race of the day, so at least he got on a high. Today though, he's starting on the right foot. He is P3 in qualifying, only just about a 10th behind Aaron Vasquez, so he has the pace. Meanwhile, his brother Will on board right now, Vinicius Dean, still hasn't been able to set a lap time, and he was quite shaky through a few corners. Maybe just trying to find the extremities of the circuit to see if he could get some lap time. So hopefully he can actually get in there before the time's up, as we focus on now another Brazilian, Resende, who has been, again, we did talk about it before, he's in really decent nick of form recently, because last season was really rather forgettable by his standards. He will definitely be able to just put that to bed and try to go for it as Pedro Dean goes into pole position.
And seeing a few of these drivers that are, again, just a little bit squirrely. One thing to keep in mind, especially these F4 cars, they can be very brutal while the tires are still warming up. So out there, coming out of some of those corners, spinning out a little bit, or locking up, going heavy into those long braking zones. So these cars, definitely, you have to find that comfortable place while those tires still get warmed on. But now I'm looking back, we see Aaron Vasquez, another on board. He's looking to get back that first place lap time, as he set the sector 1, it looks like, set the fastest sector there, and now has improved on this next one, his best sector as well. So those of you can see the timing on the bottom. Purple means that is the best overall sector, green means that is their personal best sector, and yellow means that they did not improve. So right here, Aaron Vasquez looking like he will not be able to best Pedro Dean right now. So we have just over 5 minutes left in this qualifying. He has a couple more lap times that he can put down, but Pedro Dean showing excellent pace out here, able to hold on to that pole position so far.
Yep, and we saw Vasquez, he managed to improve his time, but still just a whisk of under 400 short of beating one of the Deans. So we have a Dean right at the sharp end and Dean right at the back, with Vinicius finally getting a time in, but it's a 35.9. So if he stays where he is, he will be lining up first when we flip the script. So he will definitely take that as well, despite not having the best of qualifying runs. But at a track like Zandvoort, where track position is key, he'll probably take that.
And speaking of track position, we will have that top 15 reverse grid going into heat number 1. So as much as these guys, they do want to get at the top of the pack, they will be back in 15th place, whoever gets that top spot during qualifying. So not only will they have to keep up that pace, they will have to fight through traffic if they want to have a chance at the Triple Crown in Zandvoort. Like you mentioned, it's very hard to battle through traffic out here on this tight track. But I have no doubt that some of these top drivers will definitely be able to make their way back to the front of the pack. But right now, it's looking like your top 3 drivers, there's a roughly 0.03 of a second difference between all of their lap times. So Pedro Dean in first, Sam Kuiter in second, and Aaron Vasquez sitting in third place. So really, really great timing between all top 3 right now.
Yeah. 34-4 between 3 drivers, and can you imagine if Dean, Kuiter, or Vasquez set the exact same times? We'll have a scenario like in the 1997 European Grand Prix, where Schumacher, Villeneuve, and Frentzen had the exact same time. So we had that yesterday, of course, for the Canadian Grand Prix, where Russell just edged out a certain Max Verstappen with the exact same time up to the decimal places. So really a tight session right now between Dean, Kuiter, and Vasquez. It's still not over yet. We still have about 3.5 minutes to, in fact, almost 3 minutes left to go after this to see whether or not one of these 3 drivers will be the fastest qualifier.
And like we were mentioning earlier, if you tuned into yesterday's race, there was a bit of heat going on between the drivers, specifically Pedro Dean. So we know Pedro Dean absolutely wants to come out here today and get that win. So again, Pedro Dean still holding on to the top spot during qualifying. We know he's hungry to be out here on the podium all day long. But we have Kuiter and Aaron Vasquez right on his heels. So again, if it is this close between the qualifying already, we know it's going to be crazy battles going on as these drivers are going to have to battle their way back up to podium contention. So we've seen it time and time again. We know that they are capable of doing it as long as they can keep it clean, going. As we see Aaron Vasquez there trying to get one more lap time in, and he does. He takes that top spot. So Aaron Vasquez now able to best Pedro Dean, taking back the top spot from him.
But watch Kuiter with that second sector being purple. He is definitely going to be one to challenge for pole position here on home ground. Vasquez, he was actually ducking into his screen. He was trying to tuck in. It's a Carter's maneuver to get speed out of the final corner. He did go narrow onto the start-finish straight near the wall to shorten his distance to the line. Kuiter's not doing the same. Will he be an effective for this lap time? Yes, it does. He did not improve on his lap, but no doubt that second sector where he's very strong, he'll try to replicate here on the next lap, and he has enough time to do one more to finish off qualifying here, Kevin.
And that's the thing out here with this qualifying. Since everyone is out on the track, the draft can play a huge role on whether or not you just get those few hundredths of a second or even few thousandths of a second over some of the other drivers. So, you know, although a big part of it is just trying to be as fast as you possibly can out here in qualifying with these other drivers on the track, you're going to have to make sure that you have a little bit of strategy, see if you can work with someone to try and get a little bit of draft. Of course, that person in front, if you're not out here with the teammate, that might be a little bit harder. So we can see as Aaron Vasquez holding on to it, Pedro Dean still in second, and also Kuiter out in third place. But we have, again, even though those guys are the top 3, there are still plenty of amazing drivers that aren't too far off their pace down in the middle of the pack as well.
And we saw just now the likes of Kulhavi, who was really at a sharp end yesterday during the TCR races at Indianapolis for AMX 5. He was actually practicing his start type by the looks of it, because he is trying to get the right clutch pipe point so he can get a good launch off it. That's why he's not setting a new lap time. He's just waiting for the session to end. That's a good thing too, because if you don't get a good launch off here, you're definitely going to be swallowed up by the rest of the field and just be playing catch up afterwards.
Right now, just looking at the timing, it looks like we have your top 6 drivers with less than half a second between all of them and less than a tenth of a second between the top 3. So even from the biggest gap from first to last place right now is just over a second. So like we said, this is going to be an amazing race. We know that at this tight track, defending is going to be one of the biggest key things to get podium.
Indeed, and for the guys likes of Tim State, Diego Villarreal, Vinicius Dean up in the sharp end, that's definitely something that they're going to bank on, because they do not want to be overtaken here. So the gap between first to 12, that where Tim State is only a second, so State has some pace in him here today. Let's see if we could convert that into a win, because that will definitely be a turn up for the books if he could hold on here. But again, some really fast guys, especially the likes of Aaron Vasquez, who has 11,000 iRating. It will be quite a tall order once those guys carve their way through the field.
And so that too of your session winner, BenQ session winner, Aaron Vasquez, holding on to the top spot. So like I said, very characteristic of him as last season as well. He was very familiar to the top spot. But like we said, seeing some of these drivers, especially in these cars that have a lot of downforce. I know even from Tim State last season, he was in some of the GTP vehicles. He did an excellent job out there defending. So I hope that he can be just as good as we've seen from last season, defending for quite a while. So there's been a few, I know last time we were at Zandvoort too, also a lot of people out here trying to take bets on some of the things, which, not saying whether or not we condone that or not. Hey, that's up to everyone where they are. I have no official say on that or not. But nevertheless, Tim State right now leading into pole position, heat number 1. We are moments away from the green flag here at Circuit Zandvoort.
Yep, and as per tradition in iRacing, is a flag off like what all races could be, but like, see whether or not Tim State can actually get it off the line quickly here. Revs rise. And when the lights go out, we'll be underway here for the first heat at Zandvoort, race 12 in AMX 5. And it's green. We're underway here. State gets it off quite well, but I think Vinicius Dean got an even better launch coming into turn number 1. And on the inside is Diego Villarreal. Villarreal might just get the whole shot, or does he? State goes around the outside through Tarzan and gets it into turn number 1. That's a brilliant move to hold on to the lead. State leads Dean and Villarreal with Resende right behind.
And you can see right there, oh no, it looks like a crash right there. It looks like Zenje and Villarreal going into each other. Oh, and another crash right there. So we had a few drivers, Vasquez, Villarreal, Scudal, Zenje, all having to fall back down. So a couple of those guys already having to get towed back to the pits. I was waiting for something to happen with these drivers trying to go side by side into some of these tight turns. Like we mentioned, Zandvoort is a very tight track. So when you're out here in these open wheel Formula cars, going that close, you're bound to have some tire touching, some rubbing going on, and unfortunately, at times, just like we've seen, someone ends up going into the wall. So I know some of these guys a little bit upset about that. So right now, it is Tim State able to get away cleanly in first, followed by Vinny Dean and Gael Valero in third place. But right now, because of that accident, that's going to shift up things in the middle of the pack. So we have Gael Valero looking to make that overpass, and he does over Vinny Dean. So Gael Valero hoping for that top spot from Tim State. We'll see if Tim State is able to hold on to it.
Yep, and the VR shot State, of course, because he does drive with the VR headsets. He'll be looking in his mirrors left and right to see where's Valero going to go after this. Onto the banking known as Arie Luyendyk Bok, named after the 1990 Indianapolis 500 winner. Onto the start-finish straight. Cross the line, there you go. Of course, fast luck we have by State because he is the first to cross the line after all. But only just about 4 tenths of a second in front of him, as Soriano, we're on board with, goes wide, allows Vinicius Dean to come through, and Cool Harvey for good measure. So separate battle packs forming, but State was hoping that he was actually going to see those guys battle harder so that he can make at least a beeline for it. Now that's not happens. It's a 5-way fight for the lead.
So right now to Gael Valero slowly closing in on Tim State. But again, right there we can see as we're going on board, looks like we have between Kulavi, Dean, Soriano. So a lot of these guys right now, again, we're only in lap number 2 right now. So anything can still happen. We had a bit of chaos going on in lap number 1, caused a bit of an incident, a bit of a pile up, sending a lot of those drivers back to the pits. Unfortunately, some of the fastest drivers now looks like they may just have to throw away their heat. What we see in the bottom right, the incident after the start. So we see 2 people. I know we had about 3 people earlier as, up almost over the barriers. That is never a good sight to see And like we said, a couple of those drivers right away. I believe Senje Villarreal immediately getting towed to the pits. We still have Scudal, Vasquez still in the back as well. But right now, so Gael Valero able to take that first place position away from Tim State. So now Tim State having to battle off Soriano.
That was a very, very gutsy move from Valero on the outside, and I was hoping that State could at least put up more of a fight there on that one. He did, however, bring it all the way to the braking zone, but Valero was even braver around the outside. That was a brilliant move from the Frenchman to take the lead. Now Soriano wants a piece of the action. There's Tobias Soriano then. A different camera angle today because we saw him yesterday on the wider shot where he was actually stretching his arms out to exercise. Now we get to see him up front here and almost dead on in his eyes. You can see the steely determination to get by the American.
So we can see these drivers getting very, very close to each other. So that just goes to show Soriano showing excellent car control as he is practically touching, and right there looks like gave a little bit of a bump to Tim State. So just enough to make sure not get any damage, not send anyone off the track anymore. But Soriano very, very eager to get past Tim State. So once again right here, Tim State is showing once he can get in some of these high downforce cars, he's able to defend quite well. So like you said earlier, want to see a bit more of a battle going on between him and Gael Valero. But nonetheless, right now we're having a battle between him and Soriano. So Soriano looking for any little mistake that Tim State can make to get past him. But once we head out onto the straighter parts of the track, we may just have that draft to be able to get him to slingshot around. So now we go into a bit of the chicane, and it's still Gael Valero first, Tim State and Soriano looking to make the move. Oh no, and Tim State, he spins out, goes into Soriano. So unfortunately, places 2 and 3, your second and third place positions, getting into a bit of an accident right there, and that will set them back quite a bit.
And Soriano was the innocent bystander because State lost it all on his own in that chicane, brought both of them to the barriers. And amazingly, State's car got repaired quickly because he did deploy the quick repair. But Soriano's car is well and truly second-handed. He's gonna have to go into the pits here. Real disappointment for both drivers. It really wasn't their fault. It was just one driver making a mistake and just causing a racing incident afterwards. So again, your heart goes out to them. It was completely unavoidable.
So that leaves a little bit more room for some of those drivers that were in the back of the pack after lap 1 to start making up some ground. But right now, that gave excellent room for Gaston Coulavi and Pedro Dean to start coming back up. Like we said, Pedro Dean was very, very well in qualifying and is now already up by 8 positions. So Pedro Dean currently sitting on a podium position, but we all know he's looking to get for that top spot, be able to have that win today, as well as his brother slowly, not too far behind him. So third and fourth position going to the Dean brothers currently. But we'll see as Pedro Dean, right now, we are in lap 4 of 13. Will Pedro Dean be able to get the move on Coulavi? We just might see it, but anything can happen as we go back through the chicane where we just seen an incident last lap that got these guys into this position. So Gael Valero also able to get a bit of breathing room now, roughly almost 3 seconds ahead of Coulavi. So right now, the battle is going to be for second place.
Yeah, with the both of them battling even harder, it would just give Valero the impetus to even go further up ahead. Because Coulavi's not defending this on the start-finish straight. Pedro Dean goes on the inside. This might just be a typical maneuver here at Zandvoort up to Tarzan box. Lovely move. He had the slipstream, but Coulavi made it quite easy for him to just sneak in on the inside. Now he has to deal with the other Dean right behind. His teammate, of course, for the Nork team. Let's see what Coulavi has in his locker to prevent the other Brazilian from getting by.
So we can say there, I'm wondering what that was, whether or not maybe he didn't think that Pedro Dean was that close behind him, or if he's just going to say, you know what, I'll just get back into his slipstream and see if I can just overtake, get that position back come the next lap. So like I said, a lot of passing opportunities there, so expect to see that all day long. As we can see back in the bottom right, the State and Soriano incident, yep, looks like Tim State just went a little bit wide, caused him to lose the car, and unfortunately crashed right into Soriano. So unfortunate to Soriano, but right now, Soriano able to keep it in 7th place, so he didn't go all the way back down to the back of the pack. He's able to still be up 2 positions from where he started on the grid. So great job from Soriano to be able to stay somewhat in this race, get those points for the championship season, as well as, you know, say, all right, he's going to make up as much ground as he can and hopefully get a better heat number 2.
Yep, indeed. That will definitely be one way to just make up for it afterwards, isn't it? If you could start at front and do your escape from there on out. So at least there's a bit of a silver lining among the dark clouds. But up in front here is Valero. Oh, in fact, he's actually overtaking Jackson Resende, so that's actually a back marker right behind. It wasn't for actual track position. It may look close between the two cars, but make no mistake, that's a leader lapping another driver for track position, putting that guy behind. But here's the real battle for second, third, and fourth. The two Deans with Cool Harvey in between.
And we know, talking about that you always want to be careful whenever you're going through lap traffic. So as much as Jackson Asenge, we know that he's a very fast driver. He's still got to be a little bit careful. He's trying to use Gael Valero, use the draft to kind of catch back up, to hopefully try to not stay down in that last position. But with that, you got to always think, if you're leading and you're going through passing lap traffic, you just hope that they play nice and they don't try to battle you too much. That you guys can work together, try to pull away from some of those other drivers. As right now, Valero almost a 3-second gap over Pedro Dean. And there we have Pedro Dean and Kulavi. So as we see, Kuyter and Dantus right there, a little bit wide going off the track. So again, another shift in the grid right here. So battle of the pack in the middle. We see the number 7 of Dantus right now about 1.5 seconds behind Kuyter, and there's a pretty decent gap between Kuyter in 5th place and Vinny Dean in 4th.
Yeah, 17 seconds in fact. So I think that secondary incident that happened behind that big flip for Resende that nearly put him out of the circuit and onto his halo was really the differentiator now for the home Dutchman in front of his virtual crowd to be up in the top 5, but well and truly behind this battle for the podium. Unless, of course, the two Deans and Kulhavi get involved in an incident, it might just give him a bit of a ray of sunshine, but that looks a bit out of the question for the time being.
So we still have the battle for second place going on, as it's Pedro Dean second, Gaston Kulavi in third, and Vinny Dean in 4th place. So still, Kulavi kind of taken over a couple laps back by Pedro Dean, has not been able to get that position back. So that's showing why Pedro Dean was again one of the top qualifiers earlier on today, and now he's showing that pace, trying to pull away slightly from Gaston Kulavi, but with just about a second. So he's still, very close to that draft. So it's going to be, as long as Pedro Dean can keep his composure, keep his focus, he might start being able to walk away, make a little bit more of a gap between himself and Kulavi. So that'll leave enough room though now, with just under a second between Kulavi and Vinny Dean. We might still have a Dean battle going on our hands.
Yep, it's D-Day for Kulhavi then between the two Deans. He will try to just keep and maintain the pace right now to stay behind that other Dean, the Pedro right in front of him. Though it's even Stevens right now between the three drivers, because as you can see at the bottom of the screen, the timing is quite plateauing between all three guys. Slightly faster for Kulhavi in that final sector, but apart from that, time-wise, it's just really petering out at the moment, so we're not seeing much of a battle. Maybe they're settling into the rhythm of the race. I think maybe towards the end, if back markers get a bit involved here, or the tires start wearing out, you might see a bit of changing between these three guys, so watch this space.
And speaking of timing, it looks like Aaron Vasquez currently has the fastest lap. So although he's currently sitting in 8th position due to that incident early on in the race, he's still able to get back and set a fastest lap so far. So we'll see Aaron Vasquez up 4 positions from where he was at the grid. We'll see if he's able to climb back up. So we're right now on lap 8 of 13. So only a few more laps to get up a few more positions. But right now, it's all about this man on screen, Gael Valero, holding on to that first place position, now getting over a 2-second gap between him and Pedro Dean in 2nd place.
And you can see he was puckering his lips there for a second, because he really was on the edge, wasn't he? Because how he slid that car coming out of turn number 10 all the way into the chicane, he could have actually got it completely wrong, but luckily he kept the foot in, steering not so much to actually cause the car to angulate, so he just kept it in there, kept the pace, and still having a healthy lead of about 2 seconds. But it looks as though that lead may be under threat, because Pedro Dean has just literally carved in about 0.3 of a second this lap, and in fact 0.4 of a second now in the preceding lap to get the gap even closer between himself and the Frenchman. So it may not be smooth sailing for Valero here towards the end.
And for those just tuning in, yes, unfortunately, there was the horrendous lap number 1 incidents that happened, unfortunately, with all those cold tires. You know, just a couple of little mistakes, and it ended up in a bit of a pileup between several of the drivers. Another incident after that lap as well. So there's been a little bit of carnage going on early on in this race, but right now things have settled in pretty good. So a lot of these guys that are towards the back of the pack are still very quick. So unfortunate heat number 1 for them, but they're going to be looking to make it up for heat number 2, getting back to the front of the pack. So once again, it's always a top 15 reverse grid out here, some of these iRacing races. So that means currently we have Jackson Asenje and Skudal will be up front. More specifically, Jackson Asenje, if he stays where he currently is, with only a few laps left, he will be sitting on pole for the next one. But, you know, he doesn't want to stay on the back of the pack just to get pole. He is very happy to pass Skudal, so he's going to look to do that as well. So now we can see as a little bit of traffic getting backed up here too. So some of these drivers are a lap down due to those incidents early on.
And he actually gave way to Pedro Dean just now. He was pressuring Valero for track position, though I think he smartly backed out of it because he doesn't want to get involved in any shenanigans that will jeopardize his opportunity to start at the very front for the next heat. So yeah, he's playing the long game here, trying to weather this particular storm out and probably start afresh for heat number 2, letting his fellow countryman by, which is Pedro Dean, of course. So a bit of Brazilian cooperation going on there, and that allows Pedro Dean, with only just 4 laps left to go here, to reel in the gap on Guy Valero. He has been carving at lead. It was about 1.9 seconds. Now it's 1.5 seconds here between the Frenchman and the Brazilian. Pedro Dean here on really, ripping it in the final few laps.
As we can see from the onboard halo cam right there, Pedro Dean just absolutely putting it on the edge, finding that balance between oversteer, understeer, right on the edge of grip on these tires. So even 10 laps in with these drivers pushing it as hard as they have, there is still a little bit of tire wear coming into play at this point in the race. So once again, first couple laps, we had some of the cold tires making their way in, causing some carnage, but now a little bit more. Hopefully these drivers have just a few laps left to try and keep this clean, but once we see Gael Valero up in the lead, there's a very good chance that he will hold on to that lead. But like we said, Pedro Dean, one of the best qualifiers out there today on this car and track combination, looking to reel it in down to about 1.5 seconds. So has a couple laps to get back up to that if he wants to get back into a battle with Gael Valero. So right now it will probably be up to Gael Valero just to make a mistake if Pedro Dean has any shot of winning this heat number 1. As we see, a little bit of blinking there, so a little bit of internet connection, and that's always interesting to see of how that's going to come into play. So if Gael Valero's internet connection can stay intact right now, he may be walking away with this heat number 1 win.
No, we have seen the internet connection blinking in and out for the whole season so far. It has not been a problem for him, so at least it stays strong enough to actually keep him in the races here. But it will be quite scary for the other competitors if he starts blinking and suddenly right into their peripheral vision that might cause an accident. So at least Valero can bank on the fact that it hasn't happened yet to cause a disconnection. He can still stay in front, but he does have Connor Skudal up in front here. That might be of a problem if the Irishman / British driver come into play.
Right now, we can see on board of the other Dean brother, we have Vinny Dean currently sitting in 4th position. So there was a battle going on about halfway through the race. We've seen Pedro Dean, Kulavi, and Vinny Dean all battling it out. But now there's a little bit of a gap that has separated the 3 drivers. So with a little bit of gap right now, a lot of these drivers just have to focus on, all right, I have some breathing room. Obviously they want to get a little bit more positions gained. But the big thing is, okay, I am where I am. I have to make sure to finish the race cleanly and, focus on what I did or what I didn't do in heat number 1, come back for heat number 2 strong. As we can see right here, the red line driver, Gaiter, unfortunately got caught up in some of that incident early on, put him back down a little bit, but he's still up about 5 or 6 places, 5 places from where he was at the beginning of the grid. So right now in the middle of the pack, we will see he'll be roughly in the middle of the pack again come heat number 2, as long as he can hold on to this position. So right now, like I said, a lot of these drivers, you can see on their face, a little bit frustrated, not the results that they wanted for heat number 1, but as long as they can shake it off, say, all right, let's get back into this, let's get back in the zone, let's get in there. Someone in the chat calling, Kite Turks looks a little bored. Yeah, I'm sure, not the result that he wanted for this heat number 1, so I'm sure he'll turn it back up, get back focused for heat number 2, and just put the pressure back on them, as well as Aaron Vasquez, who's sitting back in 8th place, Jacqueline Sanjay. So a lot of those guys that ended up in the back of their pack are really going to be battling it out for the first place position going into heat number 2.
Yeah, you might say that it's a bit monotonous to stay pretty much in no man's land. He's 13 seconds behind Vinicius Dean, but 11 seconds in front of Evander Dantas. So really then, yes, it does become a bit boring because you have no one to race with. But the upshot for him is that he might be in the middle of the pack, but he is closer to the front of the field for the second heat. But he's got Aaron Vasquez right beside him for good measure. So it's going to be quite an interesting second heat after this, as we're on the final lap. On board with Soriano behind Dantas, incidentally. They're fighting for P6. Really is the only closest battle out on track right now to see if there's any position change.
So with the white flag waving here in heat number 1, looking like a lot of the final position is going to be set, but like you mentioned, great battle going on right here for the last lap. Usually we hope to see a lot of last lap battles between the front of the pack, but here it's Soriano looking to overtake, and he does go into the outside of Dantas. Will he be able to hold on to it? Looks like he has enough grip to be able to overtake, so great overtaking from the outside. That can always get a little bit sketchy when you try to make that move, but that is no worry for Soriano. As we've seen earlier on, it unfortunately got into an incident with Tim State that had sent him all the way back, but he was looking for a podium position early on in this race that unfortunately Tim State just got a little bit out of control and into the side. As soon as I say that, Tim State losing it again just right there. So Tim State getting a little bit squirrely in these F4 cars out here today. Hopefully he has a better heat number 2 than he did today in heat number 1, as well as a few of these other drivers. So a few innocent bystanders, a few people just making minor mistakes, and that goes to show once again, these F4 cars, although they have a lot of downforce and a lot of grip, some of these slower turns, it's very easy to have that rear end just kick out on you.
Yep, as we saw it's just now how State, even the slightest of going offline can actually cause that one. Valero comes across the line. He uses Skudal's draft for good measure just to get almost to the fastest lap of the race, but it will still be belonging to Vasquez. Pedro Dean comes second, Kulhavi third, his brother Vinicius Dean in fourth, and Koita, the homeboy, in fifth. Will no doubt be looking forward to the second heat to see if he can actually win on home soil.
So right now, congratulations to Gael Valero, able to take home that P1 in heat number 1. But like we said, a lot of these drivers that are showing amazing pace did very well in qualifying, got caught up in some incidents earlier on. So right now, we have a stacked grid, especially now we're going to the reverse grid. So it'll be Zenjay looking to see, he's going to get onto that as we see the car of Aaron Vasquez going right into the wall. So as we see now, a couple last drivers finishing across the finish line of Tim State and Diego Villarreal to round it out here. So heat number 1, a little bit of chaos going on, but that is to be expected when these drivers are laying it out on the line that early on.
Indeed, and again, it's just it's testament to how narrow the circuit can be here at Zandvoort that causes the incidents to happen. But the other key factor to play is cold tires at the start, and plus drivers just really going for broke on the early doors just to make out the places. But drivers who avoid that and play smart at the beginning, guys like Valero, Dean, and Kulhavi, managed to just pull through and get onto the podium.
And that too is how the BenQ session winner, Gael Valero. But like we said earlier on, Aaron Vasquez able to hold on to that fastest lap. So knowing that he has the fastest lap, we'll see if he's able to get towards the front of the pack early on. So Kyle Valero first, Pedro Dean second, Gaston Kulavi in third. And a lot of the shakeup you can see from the time differentiation from those drivers. Vinny Dean holding on to a top 5 position in fourth, as well as Kuytert coming back up. So we have a lot of guys that we know they have pace. We know they are really good. It's just if they are able to keep it clean out here, definitely expect a lot of close racing, a lot of wheel-to-wheel, door banging. Well, not as much banging as tire banging in these F4 cars. As we go green for heat number 2 of the race 12, AMX Season 5, we have, once again, Jackson SNJ in the pole position, holding on to that first place over Connor Scudall.
Yep, coming into turn number 1 now. Everyone's through safely this time around, and luckily, no such incidents to report coming to turn number 2. It's like everyone's now being a bit more circumspect compared to yesterday's Heat 2 in Formula 3. But, oh, spoke too soon. One of the Ds goes off, and Cool Harvey gets launched into the air.
And just like that, Pedro Dean doing so well, qualifying so well in heat number 1, unfortunately gets his wing taken off and puts him down into last place. As well as now we see Gael Valero up 2 positions, so he's able to get up just a little bit. So that, like I said, lap 1, cold tires, things get a little bit dicey at times. So we're seeing here in the middle of the pack, some of these drivers still going side by side into some of these corners. That's when things can get really dangerous around this tight track of tire to tire, door to door out here, getting very, very close. So right here we have Soriano trying to hold on to it. He's up 1 position up from the grid, but we still have Kuytert coming to look. He wants a podium out here just as bad as the next guy. So some great defending moves, some great passing moves going on right now. As you see, Vinny Dean also able to get up a position over Dantas. So far, the battle is going on between the middle of the pack where things are very, very close.
But the thing is, it's close because the fast guys are coming through and they're coming up to the relatively slower guys that will actually create these kind of tight battle packs. Now we're across the line for the first time into lap number 2. Resende up in front with Vasquez in second. That's a battle and a half that we're really aching to see how it is going to play out. Scudal in third and Villarreal in fourth. So those guys who had the unfortunate first heat are leading the way right now with Tim State in fifth. Soriano 6th, Kuytert, one of the fast guys, already, well, actually, in fact, he's moved up position. He's up to 7th. Still, waiting to see what Vasquez is going to do at the back of Resende here.
So right now, into lap number 2, your leader, Jackson SNJ, followed by Aaron Vasquez and Connor Scudal in 3rd place. So a battle right now going on for the lead. The podium contenders are absolutely gunning it. They're going to see as a little bit of a lockup from Aaron Vasquez right there, who getting very close, kind of dicey with him and Jackson SNJ. So he's looking to make a move there, just locked up the wheel just a little bit. So that could have been worse than it ended up. Luckily, he did not lose a position to Scudal, but it is still great between the 3 of them right now. Aaron Vasquez looking to try to get a little bit side by side with Jackson SNJ. So we'll see. We know Aaron Vasquez is quick enough to be able to get back that top spot. So right now, riding onto the back bumper of SNJ, just looking for that little mistake. But once again, we are only lap 2 into this thing. So these drivers got to keep in mind of as much as they want to get into the lead to be able to try to pull away, they can't battle it out too much, or else those guys behind them will start catching up very quick.
And they'll be there to pick out the pieces too. So Scudal then watching brief with Resende and Vasquez in front. Not battling hammer and tongs just yet, but they're in each other's rough as behind. That's State and Kuytert. Oh, that's a big one.
And just like that, unfortunately, Tim State ending up in accident right there, goes into the wall as well as Kuytert. So we'll have to get a replay on that to see exactly how that happened there. But those 2 drivers getting very, very close on there. So Kuytert looking to improve, get up those positions. And unfortunately, Tim State and Kuytert ending up into each other, ending up into the wall. But that's going to leave a little bit of space going on. So we can see now in the bottom right, Major Dean and the Kulavi incident earlier. So it looks like Dean, he was going just a little bit out, and Kulavi ended up hitting the rear of him. So that one, I'm not sure who may be at fault there. May have been a racing incident, but unfortunately for the both of them, they both ended up having to go to the back of the pack. So right now, back up towards front, we have Jackson SNJ followed very closely by Vasquez and Skudal. Skudal right on the rear bumper of Vasquez.
Yeah, how these two will be going at it again, because we know how Resende can be quite a tough fighter, but at the same time he races really fair to prevent any sort of accident that happens. Vasquez too, you can see why he has 11,000 iRating. He's been here almost donkey's years in terms of experience, but he is still relatively young for his age. Really knows how to handle a car in iRacing. So for this battle, we were talking about how Vasquez and Resende were fighting. We're seeing Vasquez on attack from Skudal right now.
Right there, Skudal making a great move towards the inside, trying to hold on to it as Vasquez has enough gear, trying to keep it on the outside without going out. So this next turn, a little bit of a bump in between the two. So I expect this can get dicey very, very quick, but Aaron Vasquez able to hold back onto that second place position as they go back and forth through the switchbacks, able to go. And this is very, very close. As we can see, a little bit of contact right there too, a little bit of bumping between tires. So these guys being extremely aggressive with each other. Aaron Vasquez doing everything he can to make sure and not give that place up. But we know Skudal is hungry for that win today.
Yeah, Connor Skudal then trying to uphold the UK and Ireland flag up high here. How he really is hounding the best driver in this entire field right now in terms of iRating. 11,000. Looks like that's not phasing him one bit. He really wants to get on with the job here. And in fact, 4,000 iRating for Connor Skudal and then B road license doesn't really matter, doesn't it? It's all when it comes to the punch. It really is how you race, and Skudal is really harassing Vasquez for all he's worth, and he manages to just spook him to the mistake.
Oh, and right there, getting a little bit too close to each other. That's going to be Skudal and Vasquez ending up into each other and into the wall. So you can see the frustration right there on Vasquez's face as he was easily way ahead of the other drivers. But now looking like that lead is coming out of his hands, slipping away, going to Jackson and Sanjay. So that close battle, it was just a matter of time between those two drivers as Aaron Vasquez, unfortunately, has a bit of damage and having to go into the pits.
And you can see that Vasquez was either apologizing for the incident or he was getting his hand up and say, well, apologies for that one, really didn't want to happen. Or maybe he just wants to put his hand up in gesticulation. Whatever it is, there goes his chance of getting a podium here today, as that's the Dean and Kulhavi incident. In fact, that's not the Dean Kulhavi incident, that's State with Koitet, how he ended up in the barriers. Again, 2 instances, in fact 3 even today, that we've had cars being launched over each other. So again, wheel-to-wheel contact, possible to launch these cars out into the stratosphere.
And seeing that replay there, Tim say it just looked like that little bit of contact, something happened that it made his car just get completely flung around. So breaking the laws of physics just a little bit there. But right now, nonetheless, the battle continues to go on between Vinny Dean and Skudal. So that unfortunate incident now puts Skudal all the way back to 4th place, able to let Vinny Dean and Gael Valero kind of get up ahead just a little bit. And as well as Jackson and Sanjay able to walk off with over a 4-second lead currently. So Jackson and Sanjay looking very, very good for that P1 position. So we'll have to see. Like we said, as long as Jackson and Sanjay able to keep it safe out here, which he's very good at doing once he's in the lead, we'll be walking out of here winning heat number 2. So back to Vinny Dean and Skudal.
Yeah, we saw just now how Vinicius Dean's camera got a bit blurred because it dropped a bit. Now it actually blurs out the entire background, so apologies for that one on his end. We don't really get to see how his reaction is going to be, but no doubt his eyes will be wide open right now because there goes Skudal right around the outside. He really saw just now how it happened between him and Vasquez just now with that big incident. Looks as though it's not phasing him one bit. He still goes up to P3 even with that big accident.
Right there, Vinny Dean just playing it a little bit safe, you know, wanting to see these guys, especially that has to come into play with Vinicius Dean, seeing that Skudal getting a little bit of contact earlier and letting him get that position. So that had to play into the mind of him. You know, the biggest thing is, hey, you want to be able to finish the race in the best position that you can, but the biggest thing is you have to be able to finish the race first. So right there, you know, knowing that Skudal having quite a bit of pace, as we can see now in the bottom right-hand corner of the incident, looks like Aaron Vasquez just going out to the outside into Skudal and really just getting the brunt of that into the wall, where Skudal just kind of got spun out just a little bit, didn't have the biggest, and luckily that didn't end up into a 3 or 4 car pileup.
Oh, that would have been easily gone all right, isn't it? A major pile-up afterwards. But luckily, though, both drivers managed to keep it out of each other and afterwards, and the other drivers. But it seems as though Scudal's not affected by the incident one bit. He's still going pretty strong. And I think if he manages to get the second half of the race nailed in, might just be able to catch Gallo Valero for P2.
And we can see right now, so the last three drivers, it looks like they are pretty much out of this race of Soriano, Kiter, and Vasquez. So unfortunate turn of events out here, but like we always say, that's what happens when you are pushing these cars to the absolute limit. Sometimes you stay on the limit, and sometimes you push it just a little bit over the limit, running into your fellow driver. But right now, we're on board Jackson Sanjay looking calm, cool, and collected, up in first place, has about a 3.5 second gap. So Gallo Valero actually able to start reeling in that gap just a little bit. Again, we are on lap 7 of 13 out here in heat number 2. So Gallo Valero gonna have to really start pushing it, and Jackson Sanjay can't get too comfortable in the lead if he wants to hold on to it these next several laps. So a little bit more than halfway through heat number 2. Jackson Sanjay looking to hold on to it, but right there you can see just a little bit of oversteer. So not sure if he's starting to feel the tire wear already, pushing it hard early on in this race to get up to that P1, or should I say hold on to that P1 from the starting grid. But again, pushing it that hard this early on can get you far ahead, but it can also start burning out your tires.
I remember what we heard from Seminara just now during his interview. You want to actually, even in a different sim racing game, of course, ACC and iRacing, you just want to push early on to make that gap. And then after that, use the whole race to conserve it. Use the best grip that you have left of those tires towards the end and just make one final push. So Resende then is doing exactly just that. But past the halfway point here, he should probably ease it up a bit to prevent any sort of catastrophe that will entail if he gets it all wrong.
As we can see there, Gallo Valero just setting the fastest lap. So if you're looking at the timing in the bottom hand of the screen as well, you can see Gallo Valero just going slightly faster right now through some of the sectors. So Valero able to get a lot of breathing room now. He has that fresh air up in front of him, so he is focusing on just being able to set down the fastest lap times he can possible, not worrying about the other drivers, just worrying about, all right, let's see how fast I can set this, and I need to catch back up to P1.
Yep, it looks as though, again, just as I said earlier, how Scudal was unfazed by the accident. He literally went pirouetting into the air, almost like a helicopter, but managed to actually get the car pointed the right direction, and seems as though the damage may not be as terminal as compared to what happened to Vasquez, as Vasquez is now out of the race, joining Coitet and Soriano on the sidelines here. This lap, however, is going to be really, is going to show to see if Scudal and Valero had the pace, and for the time being, through the first two sectors, it looks as though the Frenchman and the UK and Irish driver have the pace right now. So Resende is doing exactly what I was saying just now.
So Jackson Sanjay, like we said, can't get too comfortable. Like we said, the gap is slowly closing in as Gallo Valero able to set fastest lap once again, now going into lap number 9. So he is ever so inching towards the back of Sanjay, but so is Carlos Scudal as well. So right here, these guys, we see still a couple seconds gap between the drivers, but right now, will that be enough? We'll just have to wait and see. It's really going to be up to Jackson Sanjay to be able to keep his line clean and consistent. If not, Gallo Valero may very well be gunning for that first place position. So just a reminder too, Gallo Valero already up 10 positions. So he was starting on that back of the grid, able to make his way all the way up through the grid now into P2. So he definitely wants to get that win here in heat number 2. But even where he's at currently in the championship standings, this is going to be absolutely great for his position in the entire season. So right now, Jackson Sanjay first place, Gallo Valero second, and Connor Scudal in third place as the drivers get a bit of breathing room between them. So right now, lap number 9 of 30 once again. We're out here, race number 12 of season 5, AMX Sim Racing World Championship. We're back on board with Connor Scudal. Right now is down about 1 position from where he started. So he hasn't had the best day coming out here, especially in heat number 1. You know, got caught up in some of those incidences early on, put him towards the back of the pack in heat number 1. But he's showing that, hey, just because he was in the back of the pack, heat number 1 or heat number 2, he is doing absolutely excellent out here, able to keep it into podium contention. So Connor Skudal currently 3rd place. So like we said, we have 4 laps left in this heat number 2 of race 12. F4 cars out here at Zandvoort. It's been great, it's been chaotic, but more than anything, this has definitely been entertaining for everyone. So another shout out to everyone out there watching. Also, make sure to follow all of our social medias. Make sure to head over to the website. Once again, races like today, when there's only about 12 drivers on the grid, again, top 15 drivers for each heat and qualifying do end up with points. They do end up getting that prize money added towards their account. So again, all the information, if you want any more information on that, how you can get involved in these races, come back in here. These AMX 5 races and iRacing, keep in mind, if you're 2000 iRating or up, feel free to hop in and get going into these races. We hope to see you soon, as well as a lot of these drivers coming back time and time again. So again, couple laps to go. Jackson Assange first, Gael Valero second, and Connor Skudal in 3rd.
Yeah, back now in the commentary box here after a bit of an intermission. Yeah, that was great filling in the air there, Kevin, with the plugs and all that. Looks as though nothing much has changed though, because it's plateauing again between the guys at the front. Resende is picking up the pace just slightly, 34.9, 34.7 for Valero, and 35.4 for Skudal, so he really dropped off. Maybe the effects of that damage is coming to the fore right now. But apart from that, I think we pretty much settle into the positions as we are now, unless of course something dramatic happens in the final couple of laps here.
So yeah, right now, Gael Valero would have to make up a couple seconds in these last couple of laps, but right now he is only a couple of tenths faster than Jackson Assange. So again, this may very well be where we see our podium grid going on today. In heat number 2, Jackson Assange, Gael Valero. Gael Valero, again, heat number 1, did a great job, able to make his way all the way through the front of the pack. And in heat number 2, able to fight his way from the very back now into P2. So that just goes to show, especially some of these drivers too, coming off from our Assetto Corsa Competizione race earlier today, now able to go and hop into a completely different feeling car, not just because it's going from ACC into iRacing, but also going from a GT3 car into an F4 car. Just completely different feel in both of these cars.
Yeah, case in point how the amount of weight that these cars have compared to the GT3 cars just now, literally half of it. So you can fill in 2 Formula 4 cars inside one of those GT3s, and you still have some room to spare for extra weight to put on them. So that's how light these cars are. Really puts into perspective how it is, despite being fast, it's also quite tricky to drive. You just have to carry more momentum through the corners and preserve it. And speaking of momentum, Valero though, fast lap of the race, 34.5, with just 2 laps to go here. Is he going to have enough time to catch up to Resende? I highly doubt it, because I think Resende might have gotten this in the bag.
Like we've seen so far this season, and even coming in from last season, Jackson Assange is absolutely great once he starts getting into that first place position, able to either walk away with the lead or to be able to just defend the other drivers. So even if Gael Valero has enough pace, or Jackson Assange makes a couple little mistakes here and there, even if Gael Valero is able to catch up to Assange, right now with only the last couple of laps, Assange is an excellent defender. We've seen that time and time again. So that is one of the biggest things, especially in these F4 cars, of really one place on the track that we've seen most overtakes just coming from the long straights, being able to get that draft, be able to dive to the inside and overtake. So right now, 1.6 second gap between Assange and Gael Valero.
Yep, I think it may be a bridge too far now, unless Resende suffers some catastrophic failure in that final lap. It looks as though the win is certain for the Brazilian here. 1.6 seconds. It's way too far for Valero, even the great guy Valero, to get back.
So right now, just looking back towards the middle of the pack, like we said, quite a bit of a gap between most of the drivers right now, with unfortunately 3 drivers out of this heat number 2. But we see on board with Gaston Gulabi, he's just looking calm and collected, trying to just make sure, all right, I'm pretty much going to be where I'm at. As the white flag flies, these drivers really just making sure, all right, you know, it's been a crazy day. Some people ended up in incidences, some people just not having the pace that they hoped they were going to coming into this. So with all of the chaos, all of the action going on, these guys are now just focused on, all right, I need to just make it. We're in the home stretch. We need to be able to just get out there, focus up, be able to look at some of our replays, look at some of the telemetry on what happened out here, and go into next week's races, coming out swinging, hoping to get back onto the podium. So white flags flying. Jackson SNJ still in first place, followed by second place of Gael Valero. Third is Connor Scudal.
But that was a lovely shot, wasn't it? Of almost the entire Zandvoort circuit, seeing the sand dunes on one side, but it's clearly full of grass nowadays because the vegetation has grown since daily there's Zandvoort. But Resende won't be minding the scenery too much. He's well on his way here to taking a well-deserved Heat 2 win.
So right now, like I said, just seconds away as Jackson Asenje finally bringing it around to the home stretch, and that will be another win in the bag for Jackson Asenje. So big congratulations to him. You can see the look of relief on his face, just ready to be out there. Glad he's in that top spot, but also a relief that he has to not keep going. So he's going to look at coming back even stronger next week, as we have Gael Valero also in second place. And in third place, we have Connor Scudal, along with Vinny Dean coming across, a few of the other drivers now, everyone making their way across through the checkered flag. So, man, again, heat number 1 and heat number 2, we had some crazy incidences, and that really set the tone for the rest of the racing.
Indeed, and the fact that we were robbed of a potential great fight up in front between Aaron Vasquez and Jackson Resende. And you can put Connor Scudal there for good measure because their top 3 were really close on him. But then after that incident between Vasquez and Scudal, it was just basically plain sailing for Resende. And likewise, in heat number 1, Valero was just basically out and about all the way in front. Nobody was pressing right behind him after the big incidents coming through turn 1, and he literally just stroked it all the way to the end for a well-deserved victory in heat number 1.
And I wouldn't doubt it if some of these drivers have a few things to say or show some of the replays, as every time that we see a lot of this, you know, there are definitely some people have some words to say. Some people just say, you know what, it is what it is. You know, that it was an unfortunate day. We had some incidents, and I'm just going to look for next week. But we'll have to see if anyone posts those replays, as we have your BenQ session winner for heat number 2, Jackson SNJ, walking away with the win, but the fastest lap going to Pedro Dean. So Gael Valero able to hold on to it in second place, as well as third place going to Connor Scudal, Vinny Dean in fourth, Dantes coming in fifth, Kulavi sixth, Pedro Dean coming in seventh, Villarreal eighth. Down the lap is Tim State coming in at ninth, having a couple incidences out today. Aaron Vasquez 10th, Sam Keuter 11th, and 12th, Kobe Soriano. So last 3 drivers, unfortunately, like we said, there were a lot of incidences today that really kind of, a lot of drivers upset. A lot of drivers were doing so well towards the front of the pack, ended up getting put out of the race very early on. So, man, what a crazy day it has been. Like we said yesterday with the F3 cars, we've seen some similar things going on as today with the F4 cars.
Yep. And the key theme here is when 2 wheels interlock with each other, where front wheel or rear wheel or whichever wheel just ends up hooking onto each other, is enough to send one car flying. And this was no different in the Formula 4 cars. In fact, it's even more dramatic in the Formula 4 cars because the cars went swinging up into the air, almost like helicopter propellers, literally after being launched off. So again, that's probably something for the drivers to take note in future races, to not get wheels locking in together.
Yeah, so we love seeing the fast-paced driving out here in these Formula cars. But like you mentioned, it's a lot easier to just have what would be normally just a little bit of bumping against the other drivers turn into an all-out crash. So we'll see like we said, here in a few minutes, going into the interview room, kind of hear what was going through some of the drivers' minds. Again, the big thing that is a lot of people's the front of their minds right now is some of those incidences going on, but also some of the drivers that made their way through those incidences, around those incidences, able to not get caught up in that. But also, once again, we have a lot of stuff to unpack here, as well as the racing stewards may also have a lot to unpack. As anytime there's incidences like these, that never makes it an easy job for the racing stewards.
Indeed, and the fact that the Kara stewards from the Korean Auto Racing Association have had quite a long list of reports from previous seasons that also backlogged sometimes because of how many incidents that happened. We'll really see this ones as, okay, definitely have to throw the book at somebody for some of the incidents that happen, but sometimes when major things happen, it's just a series of events that really come together. Small incidents that led up to the big one, so sometimes it is almost confirmed to be a racing incident. You just can't throw the book at anybody for that one.
Yeah, nonetheless, that too, of like we said, a lot of these things, things can get heated at times, but like we said, that is the nature of the beast. Sometimes just close racing, whether it was intentional or not, there still may be penalties that have to get put out of there, whether or not the driver was malicious. A lot of times, like we see from these drivers, it's not intentional. It is just them getting that close, especially being in virtual racing out here in iRacing too. A lot of times you can see just being too close to the driver next to you can send both of you into the wall, as we seen earlier. So we're gonna head over to the interview room here very shortly and talk to one of our drivers that unfortunately was caught up in a couple of these during heat number 1 and heat number 2.
And the first of those drivers to be interviewed today will be Tim State, who no doubt will be slightly miffed by the fact that a couple of incidents took him out, or could have potentially been a strong top 10 finish in both heats. So Tim, first of all, welcome to the interview. How are you feeling after those races?
I feel good. I mean, they're always fun. But yeah, I was a little disappointed because I felt I had pretty good pace in the F4 car. It's my first time driving that car, actually. I just got it yesterday, and but it's tricky. So the first race, all I did was put one wheel on the grass, got a little half spin, and then I got collected. And then in the second race, I was racing with Sam, and he was passing me on the outside, and I feel like he got a little close. Wheels touched, and boom.
Indeed, and both of you went literally helicopter into the air onto the outside. A lot of people willing you on for defending for some of those positions, especially when you started on pole for the first heat. Take us through how is it like to drive in VR, especially when you're going through those defense, because sometimes you're probably leaving a lot of space, but sometimes it could be very close. How is it from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the VR personally. It's a lot more realistic. I mean, that can work against you, I think. But I just, you're sitting in the seat, you can look left and right, you're there. And I don't feel like I would drive any different, really, if I was using the monitors. I try and be cautious. I know I'm not as quick as the other drivers, so I tend to have to let them pass sometimes. So I just try and stay in the race.
Indeed, that's a very nice thing to have, especially when you give space to the others to just, mind your own business and avoid the incidents. So lastly, you reckon that maybe one of these days a podium or even a win is on the cards, in your opinion?
I'm working towards it. I'm trying. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting better all the time. And my iRating's gone up a little bit. But it's the race work that I need to work on, how to pass cars, or rather than just concentrating on speed. So yeah, it's fun.
Yep, and great to have you on board as well. Plus the fact that a lot of people in the conversations were really willing you on as well. Hopefully that win will come one day. And of course, seeing that your car has a Liverpool FC livery on it, so hopefully, like everyone around here, you'll never walk alone.
There you go. Go Liverpool.
Cheers. Right, thank you for your time, Tim, and see you for the next races.
Yep, fantastic. Thanks, bye.
So then, that was Tim Estate with a very frank interview, and really nice to see that he was very chill about it. Plus, the fact that he really was working towards trying to be faster with every race, and that's really nice to see. But from one end to the grid to the other, we're here with Connor Scudell, and really was one of the performers of the race. Really stunning to see that he could actually give it to some of the faster guys, especially high rating. Connor, take us through your first heat first, then after that we'll go through what happened with Aaron in that second one.
Yeah, in the first heat, that was and it's always the way it is with the kind of reverse grid races, that you're always kind of running the risk of having these kinds of accidents. But basically, I mean, I saw the guy spin in front of me and then kind of just hit the anchors and just locked up the rears and then spun round and kind of just took that contact. And I tried to drive off, but I felt like it just wasn't going to work. So just reset to the pits and just ticked over the laps after that. Yeah, it wasn't too eventful, but so it's always the way it is. It's racing.
And indeed, so going into that second heat, it does build up that momentum, isn't it? Because you want to use that extended session in that first heat to build momentum into it, and build momentum you did, because you really gave a good fight with Aaron, wasn't it? Until the collision happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the one good thing to come out of the crash in the first heat, is that I knew that I was going to be starting further up for the second heat, because obviously it's a reverse grid. So I thought it was going to be a really good opportunity. Well, I mean, it was a good opportunity to get a good result. And I mean, off the start, I was having some problems configuring my clutch, so I didn't actually get the launch that I wanted off the line. So then I got past there in the first lap, and I felt like I had the pace to get back past. There was Valero was behind, and he was catching up quite quickly. He was really fast, so I kind of wanted to get ahead, to avoid getting past. And yeah, so it was a fun battle. I mean, it was maybe a bit more kind of bumping wheels than what I would have wanted. But it was fun, and I think the contact was just unfortunate. I've not had a chance to go back and have a look at it, but I went for a move down the inside, and it's tough with these cars because they're so light. They just pop up so easily. So as soon as you kind of lock wheels, it's not like like a sports car or something where you kind of just bounce off each other. Here you just click wheels off each other, and it's a bit dramatic. But I mean, it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. And yeah, I'll have to go back and see what happened.
Indeed. And well, we did talk about in the commentary that these cars are light, and the moment you do lock the wheels, it's just sending you up into the stratosphere. But it seems as though that contact with you and Vasquez didn't really affect you as much, did it? Because your car seemed to be flying afterwards.
Yeah, it was. It felt a little bit weird. I mean, after something like that, you're always a bit cautious for the next couple of corners, just because you don't want to send it in, and you've got no front wing, and you have a big front lockup or something. But it felt real. Yeah, for the most part, it felt pretty good. I was pretty happy to just tick on, and then had pulled off that overtake. A couple laps later, I was really happy with. I mean, it was. I would say not to throw any shade at Vasquez, but maybe there was a bit more room given in the second fight that I had than with the first fight, so it made the overtake a bit more comfortable. But yeah, no, I mean, it felt pretty good. But a couple laps in, the track temps are quite warm, and the tires, my rear tires, were kind of just going off a little bit, so I wasn't able to push as much as I would have wanted to try and stay in that fight for the top two positions. So towards the end, I kind of just trailed off a little bit, but still happy to take P3, take a virtual podium.
Indeed, and that's a great way to bounce back, isn't it, after a tough couple of sessions. But congratulations on the podium in heat number 2, and hopefully we'll see you in future races, Connor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
And just
Well,
like that,
very time
we
was
heard
being
it from
really-
the drivers
Sorry.
themselves. So
Yep.
so you heard, a couple different points of view on what was going on for today's races. Great battles all weekend long. That wraps up this week's racing. Once again, make sure to follow all of our socials for updates, highlights, reels, those sorts of things, as well as amxrace.com to get a look at this season's full schedule. Once again, this is season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. Make sure to come back next week. Our next race, we're heading back to the Nürburgring. Last weekend we were out at the Nordschleife. Now we're going to be at the Grand Prix course. So always a good time when we head back out to Germany for our races. But once again, I am Kevin alongside with Amir. It has been a great day of racing. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.